though. They my bestie. She's my bestie. That's my bestie. Your para eyes had me paralyzed. Toxic nigga, but you made me to a better guy. Smoke, but with you on forever, ever. I can watch you all day, girl, like you televised. You think like this nigga, they ain't never lied. I lived the beaches alone, I had to pick a side. Look in your eyes, girl, you were hypnotized. Of course it was your breasts, hips, and them damn thighs. Close my eyes, I'm still mesmerized. Trying to get mad at my bestie. I tried. That's my bestie, my pretty.
I heard she's the one. She's got it going on. That's my pretty eyes, baby. Yeah. She don't take no mess. My bestie is the best. That's my pretty eyes, baby. I heard she's the one. She's got it going on. That's my pretty eyes, baby. She don't take no mess. My bestie is the best. That's my pretty eyes, baby.
Hey, 3,000 degrees. What's up? Hey, Chakra King. How are ya? Hope everybody's doing well. Well, I'm doing the Karen Read trial. Karen Read is accused of running her over her boyfriend 22 miles an hour in a snowstorm. And, well, let's just say that there's fuckery afoot. This is her first trial. She will be going back on trial April 1st. Her first trial ended in a mistrial, so I'm just rewatching it till the first one starts. I'm good. How are you, 3,000? Hope you're doing well. I see you got that little peace sign, playa. All right, let me get into this.
Address.
I did.
No further questions.
Hey, Mr. Valley.
No redirect, Your Honor. No redirect. I'm all set.
Hi, Mr. Valley,
All
you're
right.
all set.
Thank you.
That's good to hear. Oh, let me put you in fucking timeout.
Right. Valley, your next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Call Miss Caitlin Albert to the stand.
If that is Shakim, that's pretty funny. But Chakra King's been around forever, for a minute. I'm glad you're doing well, 3,000. This is Karen Read right here, like the girl. Hurry the fuck up, bitch. Get on the stand. Get on the stand, bitch. Get on the stand. Oh.
Step right in. Swap step on me. Step right up.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the honesty of the court and jury of the case down here to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may take the stand.
Go ahead, Mr. Valley.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Sure. Caitlin Albert, Caitlin Albert.
And where do you live, ma'am?
I live in Easton,
And how long have you lived there?
about 3 years.
What kind of one do you live there?
I live with Tristan Morris, my boyfriend.
And you and Ms. Morris, about how long have the two been together?
Almost 8 years.
Okay.
Now, prior to living in Easton, where was it that you lived before that?
I lived in Canton,
And specifically, where in Canton did you live?
34 Fairview Road.
And how long was it that you lived at 34?
Appreciate you guys stopping by.
Geez, I lived there
Thank
from
you.
about 2011 to 2021.
And that was a family home, is that right?
Yes.
And who did you live at 34 Fairview Road with?
My mom, my dad, and my 4 siblings.
And your mom's name is Nicole, is that right?
Yes.
And your dad or your father's name is Ryan Albert?
Yes.
Oh my
And
God.
How many siblings do
Yes.
you have? I'm sorry.
I have
Yes.
4.
Yes.
I am.
She's
And, do you
relative.
work for?
I do.
What do you do for?
I work for the Massachusetts Attorney General's office in the Medicaid fraud division.
And how long have you been doing that?
Almost 3 years, I think. In September, it'll be 3 years.
And if I could excuse me, turn your attention to January 28th, 2022 to January 29th, 2022. Do you recall that time frame?
I do.
And do you recall what days of the week they were?
I actually am not sure that I recall the exact days of the week. Maybe Friday or Saturday.
Fair to say around the weekend time?
Yeah, weekend, definitely.
And as far as your family is concerned, the 29th, what if any significance is that to?
That would be my brother's birthday.
And which of your brothers is it whose birthday that was?
Brian Albert Jr.
And is beyond Brian Albert Jr., just for the sake of my own lack of confusion, is there some other name that you would call him as far as differentiating him between the brothers?
Little Brian, sometimes, even though he's not so little.
Okay. And so during the course of that week, sort of leading up to the weekend, what if any discussion did you have with your mother or anybody else in your family in regards to Little Brian?
So leading up to that weekend, I was aware that my brother might have like a friend or two over the house for his birthday. And then I had spoken with my mom and my aunt, Julie Albert, about maybe going to a local Canton bar, grabbing some food and some drinks, and just kind of seeing where the night takes us. And then maybe ultimately going back and seeing my brother for just to say happy birthday, kind of end the night that way.
As the week went along, what if anything sort of affected or changed plans in reference to that?
Nothing that I can really think of. Nothing really changed. I mean, that was sort of, I don't remember exactly how the plan came about, that we were going to, go get food and that my brother was going to have friends over. But I believe that was always sort of our plan.
And so specifically on the 28th, at some point you came to Canton, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall how you came to Canton and where was it that you went first?
So I can't say for sure. From what I remember, I believe that my boyfriend, Tristan, and I went straight from Easton to the Waterfall and actually got there before my mom and my Aunt Julie, from what I can remember. And then my mom and Julie ended up meeting us there. And that's when we sort of started just kind of like hanging out, ordering food, some drinks. And we were there for a little bit, just the 4 of us.
And do you recall about what time it was that you got to the Waterfall?
Unfortunately, I can't remember an exact time, but it would have been around like dinner time. So if I had to guess, maybe like 6.
And as far as drinking was concerned,
Hey, Will.
you weren't driving, correct?
Oh, yeah, no, I was not driving.
And do you recall specifically what kind of drinks you had or what you had to drink that night?
I believe that night I was drinking White Claw, I think.
And your boyfriend, Ms. Morris, as far as what, if anything, was going on with him that night, as far as how long was he at the bar?
Yeah, so we were aware that it was likely going to snow that night. So my boyfriend Tristan had gotten offered to do some like plowing or shoveling. So he knew that he was going to have to probably be up for the majority of the night into the morning doing some shoveling. So he didn't stick around at the Waterfall for too long. I think he had some food, maybe like 1 or 2 drinks, and then he actually ended up going home.
And you stayed at the Waterfall after he went home?
I stayed there, yeah, with my mom and my Aunt Julie.
And if you recall, as far as that evening at the Waterfall, what, if anything, was going on as far as like live entertainment?
I want to say that there might have been a band. I just don't want to say for sure, but I think I do recall a band coming in and setting up, and yeah, I think that there might have been one.
Girl, what is wrong with your memory?
Now, as far as
The
the
fuck?
evening progressed and went on, who, if anyone
You're
else, came into
young.
the Waterfall and
Hold on.
joined your group?
This
Sure.
really concerns me. You are what, 25 maybe, and you can't fucking remember what happened 2 years ago? Girl, stop.
So I can't say for sure like times of people.
See, I don't like this. I can't say for sure. They always say that shit or I believe or whatever, so they don't fully adopt their statement. You get what I'm saying? Like they leave it. Come on, girl. Like all of you guys on this damn stand, that's one thing I have picked up on. I believe. I'm not so sure. I don't know. Maybe if I don't remember, I don't recall. Like seriously, you're young. You're not supposed to have a fogged memory already. Shit. You're 20 years younger than me. And that's something that traumatic. I don't think I would not remember. Just saying. I remember shit that happened to me when I was younger. So yeah. That's crazy.
Arriving or order of people arriving. But I know at one point, my uncle, Chris Albert, he ended up joining us. He owns a pizza shop across the street. So when he was done working, he came and joined us. And then my aunt Jen McCabe and her husband Matt McCabe joined us. And then at some point, my father, Brian Albert, and his friend Brian Higgins also joined us. So at one point in time, I'm not sure the order of which, everybody came in or the time that they came in, but
Girl,
at some point we were all kind of there hanging out.
there's video
Your father and
evidence.
Mr.
You're good.
Higgins, do you know where they had come from or where they were coming from?
Yes, I believe they were coming from New York from a funeral. And I remember I had asked my mom, like, is dad going to stop by? And she was like, I don't know. He's tired. He's coming back from New York. And I was like, oh, I want to see him. So I think I convinced him to come. And then Brian Higgins just kind of tagged along from what I can remember.
Now, as far as Mr. Higgins was concerned,
I
that's
can't
someone that you were
remember.
familiar with prior to this evening on the 28th.
I knew of him and I had met him a couple times, but nothing more than that.
As far as you're aware, the house that you, for lack of a better term, grew up in or spent some formative years in, had Mr. Higgins ever been over to that house at 34 Fairview when you were there?
Not that I know of.
Now, at some point later in the evening, who, if anyone else, came and sort of came up to your group or joined you?
So from what I can remember, I remember
Oh,
sitting at like a
here
high
we
top
go.
table, and it was me and my mom
From what
sitting
I
next to each
can
other, and
remember.
we were facing like the front door of the Waterfall. And I recall a man and a woman walking in, and at
I
first I didn't know who
definitely
either of them were, but I noticed that the man started talking to like some of my aunts and uncles that I was with, and he seemed friendly with the people that were in our group. So I had said to my mom, like, oh, who is that? And she said, oh, that's John O'Keefe. And I had known of him because I knew his story about his niece and his nephew and his family. So
Well,
I had
okay,
known
hold on.
of him, but
For people that rarely know a guy, how do you know about him adopting his niece and nephew? Rarely knowing him. See, it's like you add that on so it makes your family look less culpable, right?
had never met him before. And so then I just assumed that the woman that was with him was his significant other, girlfriend, wife. I didn't know. So then, I didn't really speak to either of them. I think at one point, John came up to me and my mom and asked, like, do you guys need anything? Do you need a drink? And we said no. And that was pretty much it.
And so when you say you knew of John O'Keefe and sort of the story as you related, do you recall how it was that you came to know anything about Mr. O'Keefe? Or who was it through that you came to know about Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, in general, it was kind of like a known thing. The tragedy of what happened in the O'Keefe family. And so I had just kind of heard that story. And then on top of that, John O'Keefe's niece is either the same age or around the same age as some of my younger cousins. So I knew that she was friendly with them. I knew that my Aunt Jen McCabe would like help out here and there, going to sports, going to different events, whatever. I know that my Aunt Jen was friendly with John O'Keefe. And I knew that my Aunt Julie and Uncle Chris were somewhat friends with him as well.
No, they were bullies to him. Let's be honest.
So the younger cousins that I'm referring to would be the McCabe girls, and their parents are Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe.
And they were present at the Waterfall that evening as well.
Jen and Matt were, yes.
Now, with reference to Mr. O'Keefe and his significant other that you described, had you ever met them prior to that evening?
I had not to my knowledge. I wouldn't be surprised if there was maybe like a sporting event or something where we, met each other in passing, but I had never formally met John or the woman that he was with.
And so on that evening of January 28th, you had never met nor were you aware of anybody by the name of Karen?
No, I was not.
And if you know about what time was it that they came into the Waterfall and came over?
I can't say for sure. I'm not sure what time.
But fair to say, the other people that you testified about, as far as your uncles, your aunts, and things like that, were they all there at the time that Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. O'Keefe came in?
I believe so. I believe that everyone who was there in the group that I was with was present when John O'Keefe and
Kevin, it's just I believe, I think, I'm not sure. I can't stand that. Oh, well, we knew he adopted his niece and nephew, so that makes us less culpable of what happened to him, right? Right. Okay.
Karen Read arrived.
And about what time was it that things started?
Even though Karen Read was saying how much she admired John that night and all this other shit, that's pretty fucked up. Like. You guys don't know him, but you know his story. Get the fuck out of here. You obviously, you're just saying that because it's what you guys practiced.
Down as far as the Waterfall was concerned.
Again, I'm the worst with times, but I would say it was around like 12-ish that we kind of said, let's kind of head out and head home. I would say 12-ish, approximately.
Now, during the course of the time that you were at the Waterfall, either before or after Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read arrived, how would you describe sort of the mood or the demeanor of the group that you were with?
I mean, I didn't notice any issues or any negative things happening. All the conversations seemed positive, lighthearted. Everyone was just kind of having a good time, getting along. I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary,
didn't
really.
notice anything
No
because I
issues as
can't
far as
tell you if I
fighting or
noticed
tension between your group, is
anything.
that correct?
Correct.
Because
And as far
my
as you saw,
daddy
with
and
regards
his
to Mr.
friend
Higgins,
and
no
my
issues as far as fighting
my
or tension that you observed?
cousin might get in
Not that I observed.
trouble.
No.
And when you, around 12-ish or so, when you started to leave, who was it that, how did you come to leave and who did you leave with?
So I left with my mom and my dad. And again, I'm not sure the order of when like everybody else left. But I went with my mom and my dad back to 34 Fairview Road.
And if you recall, who drove home from the Waterfall to 34 Fairview?
My dad.
And about how long a drive is that from the Waterfall to Fairview Road?
I would say like 5 or 6 minutes, give or take.
And when you arrived to the house at 34 Fairview, do you recall where your father parked in relation to the house?
From what I can remember, he parked in the driveway. The driveway.
And if you know about how many other
From what
cars
I can
were in the driveway
remember,
when parked?
I'm not sure. I know there was at least like 1 or 2, but I can't say for sure. I just don't really remember how many were in the driveway at the time. I had like younger siblings in college at the time who would sometimes take some of the cars, so I just don't remember for sure.
oh my God,
And if you know,
girl,
essentially, there within the driveway, there's a garage at the end of the driveway.
you're
is that right?
annoying
Yes.
as fuck.
There's, door on the left, door on the right, is that right?
Yes,
And do you recall whether or not your father pulled in the driveway on the left side or the right side in relation to those doors?
I don't remember.
I don't
And when you
remember.
came into the house, do you remember how it was that you came from the vehicle to the house?
Yes. From what I remember, I went in the front door, so I would have gotten out and walked on the brick path over to the front door area, walked
From
up the
what I
steps, and then
remember, girlfriend.
walked through the door that enters into like a
Stop that
foyer
shit.
area.
And just to be clear, so when you walk into that front door with the foyer area, what if anything's right in front?
So when I first walked in, I actually had seen my cousin Colin. He was standing in the foyer area, and I remember I said to him like, "Oh, hi, what are you doing?"
Pick up the stuff that you're
Next
going
question.
to.
Not what you said.
There's more in the bike.
Taking you back to sort of when you're exiting the Waterfall and when you're exiting your parents' vehicle and walking into the house, what if anything did you observe as far as the weather at that time?
I remember at that point, snow was definitely coming down, and I could tell that it was like progressively getting worse.
I didn't
As
watch
you walk
them.
into the home in the front foyer area, that's where you went into your
Oh, wait. They're
How
in
was
that
Colin
dryer.
to
My
you
bad.
as far as how is he your cousin?
So Colin is Julie Albert and Chris Albert's son. So he's my first cousin.
And when you walk in, you sort of bump into him, where was it that he was?
He told me that he was headed,
Not what you told. Where was he going?
to my knowledge, he was going home.
Objection.
Next question. Next question.
From the time that you walked in and bumped into Colin sort of in the foyer of the home, how long was it that he was in the home while you were there?
I would say
So how long was he in the home when you were there?
minutes.
And from your group, this includes yourself and mother and your father, is that correct?
Sorry, what was that?
From your group, when you enter the home, that includes you, your mother, and your father. correct?
Yes.
And who, if anyone else in the Waterfall, arrived at your home around the same time as yourself, your mother, and your father?
I believe that Brian Higgins was the next to arrive. I think he very shortly after came inside, after myself, my mom and dad.
And so when Mr. Higgins comes into the house at 34 Fairview, are you already in the house?
I was already inside, yes.
And so do you have any idea what Mr. Higgins was driving that evening or where he parked it?
I do not.
I'll do the darks.
And then once you come into the house, when you come into the house, where is it within the home?
I'll do that someday.
So I walked in through the foyer, and then I took a right turn, which leads into like the dining room area. And that's where my brother Brian and 2 of his friends were just sitting around the dining room table. So I said happy birthday to him and was just kind of hanging out in there for a little bit.
And the friends that you observed in that sort of kitchen dining area, friends of your brother Brian, what were their names?
Sarah Levenson and Julie Nagel.
And were those people that you were familiar with prior to this?
Let me
evening?
see if
Yes.
her testimony is just like the rest
Yes,
of her.
exactly.
And
I wish you
with regard
did.
to with regard to the house
She
after
was that shit, I
mother and
swear
father
to
arrived,
you,
and Mr.
I'm
Higgins after
gonna
that, who,
choke.
anyone else from the Waterfall came to the house that you saw?
My Aunt Jen and my Uncle Matt McCabe.
And when your Aunt Jen and your Uncle Matt Cade arrived, where was Colin?
Colin had left by then.
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
And when Mr. and Mrs. or your uncle and your aunt Cade come in, where is it that they go with them?
I believe they did a similar thing. They either entered through the dining room or through the kitchen area, but the dining room and the kitchen are like open floor, kind of all the same room. So we were just all kind of hanging out in that area.
And if you know about how long a period of time were you at your parents' house on Fairview Road? That is?
I would say an hour 45, latest 2 hours, but around like an hour and a half, an hour 45. But yeah, I can't say for sure. It's an estimate.
And for the balance of the time that you were there, were you in that same sort of kitchen dining room area?
Yes.
And what is it that you were doing as far as you and the group doing in that area?
We were just kind of hanging out. I remember that my mom had grabbed like a small speaker and put some music on. We had a couple drinks and everyone was just kind of like having a good time hanging out. We said happy birthday to Brian and that was kind of it.
And
Well, you guys rehearsed that pretty well because your
at any
brother
point in time
said the
when you
same
were,
fucking exact thing.
well, let me ask you this first. As far as the sort of demeanor or mood within the house, similar to how I asked you with the Waterfall? Did any of that change once you returned back to your parents' house at Fairview Road?
No.
So everyone getting along, no arguments, no tension, anything?
Correct, yeah.
No two witnesses are going to have the same exact story. It's strange to me that all you people in the house have had the same fucking story. It's weird to me.
Now, beyond the people that you just described, did anyone else come into your house, into your parents' house that evening while you were there?
No.
There we go. No, I wish they
Specifically,
did.
Mr. O'Keefe and or his significant other, Ms. Reed, at any point in time while you were there, did they come into your house?
No, neither of them ever came into the home.
Now, with regard to the people that you were describing before, at any point in time, did the people
Oh, I
in the
bet
dining room
they
area,
did.
any of them leave that area of the house?
I think when my mom, my dad, and I first got there, I believe my dad went upstairs to grab the dog to let her out. So he did that. And then I think there was another period of time where my dad might have been showing, or maybe my mom or my dad were showing Brian Higgins, like family photos of one of my brothers, who's in the Marines. So and that would have been in like the family room area, which still is like, there's an open doorway. So it's not like the door was shut.
Wait, I thought he was showing medals, not freaking photos. Oops, you forgot to, cover that with your dad.
Or anything. But other than that, we all kind of stayed within that dining room kitchen vicinity.
Now, with reference to the dog, that was a family dog, is that right?
Yes.
And your family had the dog when you still lived on Fairview Road with your parents?
Yes.
And what was the dog's name?
Chloe.
And with respect to letting the dog out, can you describe to the jury sort of what that process entailed? Was it on a leash or how was the dog let out?
Oh my
Sure.
God.
So we had like a fenced in backyard and we had a back door. So we would just kind of open the back door, let her out. She would kind of do her thing, and then she would come back in when she was done.
The dog ran free and
And,
just
your father
bit
took care of
John
that and then
O'Keefe,
got home
you
from Waterfall that
dummy.
evening.
Yes.
The family room that you were talking about where your father and or your mother and Mr. Higgins were as far as the photographs, where is that in relation to the dining room kitchen area, and specifically, can you see into that area from the dining room kitchen?
Into the family room? Yes. So there's just sort of like it's like a doorway, but there's no door there. It's pretty open. And if you're standing in the dining room or the kitchen, you can see into the family room for the most part.
Now, you at that point were not living at the address on Fairview Road, is that right?
Correct.
And as far as the people that were at the house who did not live at Fairview home on that night, who was the last person?
I was the last person to leave.
And prior to your departure from the house, sometime hour 45 or so after you got there,
Mhm.
Can you describe the order in which the other people that you just described were there? What order did those be?
I don't remember the order in which everybody left, but I do remember that Sarah Levenson, Julie Nagel, my aunt Jen, and my uncle Matt, they all left in one car, and then Brian Higgins left. But I just don't remember the order in which it was probably within like a couple minutes of each other, but I just don't remember exactly who left first. And then I left pretty shortly after everyone else as well.
Now, during the time that you were hanging out in that dining room kitchen area of the home, at any point in time was your attention drawn to the outside of the house? Did you hear anything, see anything outside the house?
I did not.
And with respect to the front area of the house, at any point in time, was there any discussion that you recall about anything going on there?
I don't recall a discussion going on about anything happening out front, except for at one point,
Let me hear her answer first. Except for what? At one point?
I remember that Julie Nagel's brother was supposed to pick her up. So I knew that there was some communication where she told him, never mind, you don't need to pick me up. You can go home. I'm going to go home with Jen and Matt.
Now, with respect to your aunt, Jennifer McKay, what, if anything, do you recall her doing do you recall her having a cell phone that night?
I do.
And what, if anything, do you recall her doing with respect to that cell phone?
I remember at one point we were standing in the kitchen and I had noticed she was on the phone. And I remember she said something to the effect of like, oh,
No, not what she said.
okay.
So next question.
At some point, did you see her talking on the phone?
I did.
And at some point, did you see her appear to be texting on the phone?
I'm not sure about texting. I definitely saw her speaking with somebody on the phone though.
And at some point, where did she put her phone in relation to where you guys were in the kitchen and dining room?
I'm not sure.
What does it matter?
Do you recall any sort of charger or anything like that in that area of the home?
I don't.
Now, as far as
Yeah, hurry up and drink water because you're getting nervous.
My boyfriend.
and Mr. Morris came to the house on Fairview Road and picked you up at some point, about an hour and 45 minutes or so after you arrived there, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you recall what Mr. Morris was driving on that particular evening?
I remember that he actually was driving my car, which is a 2019 white Jeep Cherokee.
And what kind of car did Mr. Morris have at that time, do you recall?
At that time, he had a very old, I want to say like 2012 Ford Taurus. So that's why he took my car, because the Taurus wouldn't have been good in the snow.
And how was it that you came? Did he call you, text you? How did you know that he was there?
I believe that we texted, and that's how I was informed that he was out front.
So you receive a text, something to the effect of here, and then you go outside?
Yes.
And when you went outside, if you recall, what was the weather like when you were coming
Where
out?
are her text messages?
When I walked outside, I remember, again, the snow was coming down a lot. I remember like sort of trying to watch my step because the stairs in the brick path were pretty snowy, and I didn't want to slip. So as far as weather, I remember.
Girl, there was only 3 to 5 inches on the fucking ground. You act like you were in a whole fucking whiteout. You weren't even in a whiteout. It didn't even begin snowing really bad until fucking later that morning, after John O'Keefe was found on your front lawn.
Remember, it was actively snowing, and I was trying not to slip. And that's pretty much what I can remember.
And do you recall where it was that your boyfriend was more parked car in relation to the house when he arrived?
I believe he parked in the driveway.
So you would have come down the steps, down the walkway to the driveway area, correct?
Yes.
And who drove from Fairview Road to back home that evening?
Tristan did.
Now, if you recall, when Ms. Morris, I'm assuming, backs out of the driveway, is that correct?
Mhm.
When he backs out of the driveway, where does the vehicle go in relation to the house?
We went up Fairview Road, so towards the flagpole in our yard.
And so towards the flagpole with the passenger side facing the house, is that right?
Yes.
And if you recall, as Ms. Morris is driving away from home, what, if anything, with respect to the weather, did he have to employ within the car?
I remember the windshield wipers were on, and I remember he was driving very cautiously, 10 and 2. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, the snow is coming down pretty hard.
Oh my
And as you drove past the
God.
house, were you looking
Stop with
outside
this
or looking at the
shit.
house with the lawn area?
Okay, we seen the police footage, when they were driving to the scene. We seen that. You weren't in a whiteout. It wasn't like completely fucking coming down. It just barely started to get bad, girl. Stop. It was barely starting to get bad where the snow plows had to come because it was 3 to 5 inches of snow on the freaking ground. Jesus, you act like it's a foot and a half. No, it wasn't a foot and a half until they came back and supposedly found taillight pieces, but couldn't find it in 3 to 5 inches of snow. Girl, bye.
Area at home?
I was not. Once I got inside the car, I was mainly, my attention was on him,
Hey,
and we were having a
Smokey.
conversation. So I hadn't been looking out the passenger window towards my house at really any point.
So your head was turned towards your boyfriend who's driving the car to the left of you as he's driving away from home.
Yes.
Hey, I eat ranch
moment.
on everything,
Yes.
sir, but not everything. Just mostly everything. Hey, that you're lying. Here comes the cops. Shit.
Nothing further on.
Christine, Eddie?
Oh, let's go. Let's go, defense. Fucking crush it.
Good afternoon.
Here we go.
So, Ms. Albert, you were at your parents' home on January 29th by midnight or shortly thereafter, correct?
Correct.
And you were the last one to leave at 1:45, 2 o'clock, somewhere in that area?
Yes.
On January 29th
Shut up,
of
Spoonie.
2022, after you got up that day, did you
Even though I
receive
wanted to
a
be a lawyer,
call, a
it just
text,
never
any
happened.
sort of communication from any investigator connected with this case?
I did not.
Trooper Proctor did not contact you on January 29th?
No.
He did not interview you on January 29th?
He did not.
What about January 30th?
No.
31st?
Nope.
How about the entire month of February? Did you hear from Trooper Proctor wherein he set up a meeting or an interview with you?
I did not.
Then what about the entire rest of 2022?
Objection, Your
Trooper
Honor.
Proctor interviewed you during that entire year?
All right, so the objection's overruled. You can answer that.
I was not interviewed. No.
And then in 2023,
Yeah, imagine
prior to
that.
May of
Imagine that. You don't get interviewed until May of 2020 fucking 3. When you're able to have your story together and all that shit, right? Fuck out of here, dude. Fuck out of here. Abomination.
2023. Were you contacted by Trooper Proctor or any investigator for an interview regarding what you just testified to here today?
I don't think so.
And you hadn't met Mr. Lally by May of 2023 either, correct?
I don't think so.
But in May of 2023, you actually were called to testify at another hearing
Right.
where neither the Commonwealth or the defense in this case was present, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Lally and Ms. McLaughlin were not there, and certainly no members of the defense team were there, correct?
Oh, you were part of the grand jury? The federal grand jury? Oh, that's lovely.
And May of 2023 was well over a year after the events that you were called to testify about, correct?
Correct.
Right. So if these events happened on January 28th and 29th, 2022, the end of January of 2023 would have been a year. And now you're being asked for the first time to give testimony about what happened back in January 2022 in May of 2023, correct?
Yes.
And then it was only after you testified for that other
I miss
proceeding
you.
without the prosecution and the defense of this case there, that Trooper Proctor finally interviewed you in August of 2023, correct?
That's correct.
And that was 4
Shitty
months
police work.
after you testified in that other hearing of May of 2023, correct?
And this was one of their own.
June,
That's
July,
sad.
I'm sorry, 3 months, June, July, August, correct?
Correct.
And it was about a year and a half after January 29th of 2022, correct?
I believe so.
Now, on direct examination, Mr. Lally had asked you about whether you knew Brian Higgins. Do you remember that line of questioning?
I do.
And I believe you testified that you knew of Higgins, correct?
Yes.
And you thought
She has a reason to lie, her daddy, her daddy's house, it happened at her daddy's house. She has a reason to lie. Her cousin, fuck Brian Higgins, because he really ain't a part of it, but he is a part of the story. So she's just, protecting her own.
that you had met him a couple of times, correct?
Yes.
So Brian Higgins, you would classify as an acquaintance, correct?
To me?
Yes.
I would classify him as a friend of my father's, not really an acquaintance or friend of mine.
Okay. So he didn't rise to the level of an acquaintance, somebody who you met, but you didn't really know.
Were you at
I'm
bars
not really
with
sure
him
how I would
together?
categorize
I'm
my
quite
relationship with
sure
him.
you
Again, it
are.
was just more of like, he was my father's friend. If I had seen him walking down the street, I would have said hello to him. I don't know anything about his personal life. I don't communicate with him regularly. So I mean, if that's what you would consider an acquaintance, then yes.
I guess I would ask, what do you consider an acquaintance? How would you define that term?
I would say
he's
an acquaintance
getting
is someone
canceled.
whom you are friendly with and might see from time to time. I guess in my head, I'm just sort of thinking,
She knows it's coming. She knows it's coming. I bet you the fucking paramedic or firefighter or whatever the fuck that bitch was is going to tell her, you better watch out because they're going to bring up our
someone who's
relationship.
in closer in age with me. I usually think of it as more of like a friend type thing and not my father's friend to me. I guess that's just the way I think of it in my head.
Okay, so is your testimony before this jury that an acquaintance is really a friend?
Someone that you are friendly with, perhaps. Could be.
Girl,
Have you watched any of the testimony in this case prior to your taking the
she
stand
knows
today?
it's
I have
coming.
not.
Has
She
anybody
knows it's
told you
coming,
anything
you
about
idiot.
any of the testimony that has occurred prior to your taking the stand today?
No.
Who is Katie McLaughlin?
Katie McLaughlin is a girl who I'm the same age as. We went to high school together.
We're
We
friendly.
graduated the same year, and we have a couple mutual friends. We interact with some of the same people socially. I don't really.
See, that's what I don't like is you're saying the same fucking shit that she said. I don't like that. That means like you've cooperated, like you've sat there and talked about it, or she fed you, or you watched the trial or something. Just something is fishy about all this.
I can't think of a time, possibly ever, where her and I ever hung out one-on-one or individually. So more of like a friend of a
You don't
mutual
have
friend.
to hang out with somebody
Okay. So
one-on-one.
You would not consider Katie
For being
McLaughlin to be
close
a
with.
friend.
She's not a close personal friend of
I
mine.
asked you if she was a close personal friend.
Objection.
Just let her finish her answer.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your answer.
I would not consider her one of my, again, close friends.
Okay. All right. So let's get back to my question. Would you consider her to be a friend?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay, jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch.
Yeah, they don't like it. They know it's coming. They know it's fucking coming. She's gonna get impeached. Because I'm sorry, taking all them fucking photos with her and all that shit, that equates to, someone that's just like my casual friend. I don't think I'm gonna be in like 50 photos with them like she is with this girl. Come on, stop lying. This shit is ridiculous. It's redunculous. And this poor mother is fucking sitting here watching this and just agreeing with what the cops say. The cops can't do no wrong because her son was a cop and she refuses to believe it. But guess what? Cops are human and they're dickheads too. They can be dickheads. And when you're easily influenced by the people you grew up around and people you know, it can happen. Just like they think it's a secret society. Cops, it shouldn't be a secret society because they're public servants. So if we question it, it should be at our hands, our reach of our hands. And I hope I'm like more together than I have been. Like, I hope. Because, you know, I don't want to be all over the place. And I started new medicine, so we'll see. We'll see. But girl, you're going to make me want to choke you through the damn TV screen. And these guys believe it. I mean, he believes it. She believes it. This is the brother. This is that's the sister-in-law. And then over here is the mom that believes all this shit. They're saying because he wanted to break up with her. But there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of that. And just like normal people, they argued. They had an argument the day before. They put all that shit to the side and went out, had fun. There was no reason. Like, she was drunk and pissed off that he fucking dogged her out, which anybody would. Like, especially if you're drunk and you have the.
Okay, Ms. Albert, you know Courtney Proctor, correct?
You're going to hang out with your boyfriend.
I know of her, yes.
And you've been in her company several times, correct?
Her messages and calls
children,
equated to her killing somebody.
Once, yes.
No,
And you know she is Michael Proctor's sister.
She thought he was still alive. She's
Yes.
calling and telling him you're
when
on
Michael
me.
Proctor ultimately interviewed you in August of 2023,
It doesn't equate to
did he
her
ever
running him
ask
over.
you how well you knew his sister, Courtney Proctor? Did that subject ever come up?
Not that I remember.
And did you ever mention it to him that you had met his sister and met his sister's kids?
I did not.
Now, on January 28th of
they're saying that he wanted to break up with her, so it was basically she was pissed off that he wanted to break up with her, but there's no signs of it. Like, they showed all the text messages they showed didn't say that. Yes, he may have kissed somebody else, and yes, she may have been looking elsewhere for, like making her feel wanted or whatever. And she stopped messaging that person like a week and a half before. And then they seen him and her together at the bar. And I guarantee he told his other cop friend and was like, oh yeah, she's been texting me, dude, because of all the shit, the peacocking they did in the fucking in the bar, thinking, trying to prove his manlyhood. That's why they were play fighting and shit. It's the dumbest shit in the world. They have more, and they're acting with more guilt than she is. She hasn't acted with any guilt, but they're trying to get her on guilt. I don't know what guilt they're looking at, but like calling up people, that are covering the story or whatever, saying they're the so-and-so from so-and-so, but you can really tell who the fuck's on the line saying, oh yeah, well, you got it all wrong. We're decorated dudes type shit. Dude, that's consciousness of guilt. What, you don't like what was portrayed? You don't like the truth coming out? All this dumb shit. It's just, it's dumb. And then they get so offensive and shit when the truth comes out. They don't like it when the truth comes out. They hate that. And that's any case. Like any case, you start watching like a person that's trying to, you know, act like they're, you know, say that they're innocent, but they're really not type shit. You can see it in their body action. And she hasn't faltered. Even though I say, yeah, she should stop throwing those daggers, you know, because maybe the jury will look at her a certain way, right? But I understand it. Like, you lie on me, motherfucker, I'm going to sit here and fucking, yeah, you know?
2022, you went to the Waterfall with your boyfriend, Tristan Morris, correct?
Yes.
And ultimately, he left and you stayed, correct?
Yes.
The reason that you stayed is you wanted to go back to 34 Fairview, your old home, to be there by midnight when your brother was turning 23, correct?
Not necessarily. My plan was always to stay and just spend some time with my mom and my aunt. But Tristan left very early because he knew that he was going to have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning shoveling or plowing. So my plan was never to go back with him. But it wasn't.
Was Tristan on the fucking video at the waterfall? Was she on the video at the waterfall?
Necessarily because it was my brother's birthday. It was just what my plan was for the night.
Certainly the fact that it was your brother's birthday didn't deter you from going back there, right? In other words, the fact that it was your brother's birthday didn't cause you to hesitate to go back. You wanted to be there, right?
Well, my brother Brian wasn't at the waterfall.
I'm talking about, let's start over. Tristan left, right?
Yes.
You stayed at the Waterfall.
Yes.
And you planned to go back to 34 Fairview, did you not?
At some point in time, that was spoken about, and I agreed to go back to 34 Fairview, yes.
Okay. And you went back there to see your family, correct?
Yes.
Including your brother Brian, whose birthday it was, correct?
Yes.
That was your parents' home, right?
Yes.
You grew up there.
Yes.
You were comfortable there.
Yes.
There was plenty of room at the house, correct?
In what sense?
A bunch of bedrooms.
Yes.
Not all of them were taken up, correct?
At that time, correct.
You certainly felt welcome there, correct?
Yes.
And there was no problem with you staying there overnight, correct?
Correct.
And when you made the decision to go there after the waterfall, you knew that there was a snowstorm that was starting, correct?
Yes.
And you've already testified that when you went back to 34 Fairview, you saw your cousin Colin Albert inside the home, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you walked in and he was one of the first people that you saw, correct?
Correct.
He's been over your house many times, correct?
Correct.
You're close with him as your first cousin, are you not?
I am.
And your brother Brian Jr. is close with him as well, correct?
Yes.
Colin Albert is close with your parents, correct?
Yes.
He's certainly welcome at your parents' home, correct?
Correct.
And it was certainly not shocking to see your first cousin Colin Albert at your home, correct?
Correct.
And you had a brief interaction with him, correct?
Yes.
That was sort of toward the foyer of the house?
Yes.
And then you to your parents' home and you saw other people there, correct?
Yes.
Where did you go within the home after you had seen Colin?
I believe I entered through the foyer into the dining room area.
And when you were there, you saw your brother Brian, whose birthday it was, correct?
Yes.
He had two friends with him, Julie Nagel and Sarah Levenson, in that same area?
Yes.
You greeted them as well?
Yes.
And that's where your attention was focused, fair to say?
I would say that once I said hello to them, I didn't just sit with them three. I sort of was walking around. I wouldn't say my attention was solely focused on them three, but I did greet them, yes.
And where you were walking around within the kitchen dining room area?
Yes.
And once you greeted Colin and left him, it's fair to say that you then were not looking over your shoulder, monitoring what Colin was doing or where he was going, correct?
Correct.
Boom.
And while you were in the kitchen dining room area,
How you know
the door
that?
to the basement was kind of blocked from your view, was it not?
If I'm in, there is a spot in there where I could see it, but I don't believe I could see the basement door, no.
Right. And from your vantage point, the door to the basement's kind of blocked from the area that you were in.
For the most part, yes.
And you weren't watching Colin to see where he went after you left him, correct?
Correct.
And you never saw him leave the house physically, correct?
Correct.
Oh, that wasn't part of our
Maybe a good time
story.
to pause.
Damn it.
Are we going past four?
All right, we'll pause then. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Albert, we'll bring you back tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to stay here and just leave the jury's final out first, and then you can follow them.
All right,
Jury's
thank
the
you.
same three
Fine,
functions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone.
In
Don't
other
do any
words,
independent
they
research
gotta
or
discuss
investigation
what
into this
photos
case.
they can
If you
allow
happen to see
in.
here or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. Tomorrow's a half day. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, support, please.
We're gonna finish out this day and then start the other day. Whenever, hurry it up, enter out, get out of there. Jurors,
Follow them out. Okay. Thank you.
everyone help. Thank you. Here it comes. pictures of how not friendly she is with fucking the goddamn firefighters. Old lion.
All right, so Misty and Eddie, why don't you tell me now what it is you hope to do tomorrow and the basis for it?
Right, so my plan, Your Honor, it is based on the fact that Katie McLaughlin, when she testified, tried to minimize her relationship with Caitlin Keller. The reason why that's relevant is that we have proof that she has changed her story after she learned that 34 Fairview was the Albert family home. She was on record with Trooper Proctor stating that, this is Katie McLaughlin, stating that what she heard my client say, she actually overheard. She heard my client addressing Jennifer McCabe on scene in a hysterical manner saying, allegedly, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And that evolved, in this case, to a multi-part conversation with many different people, including starting with Katie McLaughlin saying, was there any trauma?
Yep.
And my client supposedly responded, I hit him. And then a police officer jumps in and asks another question, and my client supposedly said, I hit him. And there were 4 different times where my client was responding to others, so that it wasn't really this burst of excitement and an excited utterance. She tried to cast it as statements that were made upon reflection, making them sound more ominous and more inculpatory than what they were, particularly because the person to whom my client was speaking, who was no friend of my client, reported that she said, did I hit him, could I hit him? So we have a clear conflict in the testimony. We have a witness who has admitted that her statement has evolved, and she's admitted that her statement evolved after she learned the identity of the
Now
house
that
that she was at,
testimony,
which happens to
I'm
be
gonna need a value.
with
Testimony,
Caitlin
'cause,
Albert,
hey.
who Jackson asked Caitlin Albert was.
Shit.
There was a long pause, and then she was very, and then even the way she phrased it was, I think, telling. I went to school with somebody by that name. There was something to that effect. It just sounded ridiculous. It sounded like it was something that she was trying to remember. At that point, we had 4 photos that we marked for ID, HIJ, and K, where we have them together. We have them being Facebook friends. We have a nature of the relationship that she tried to conceal in our view. Since that time, we've been deluged by other photos of the 2 of them together, including one, intimate photo of them, before them. I'm sorry, when I say before them, I mean Caitlin Albert, her 2 college roommates, and the only person who's not a college roommate in that photo is Katie McLaughlin. Katie McLaughlin also said that she never went on anything other than occasional day trips with Caitlin Albert. We now know that that's false. We have them together in a hot tub drinking in a photo that is from Maine, which is about a 4-hour drive away.
Hey,
when is
how
that?
are you, Cool Pepsi?
But when did it occur? Did it occur in 2016 or was it posted in 2016?
It was posted in 2016. I think the information says that's when it was a new photo that was uploaded. Let me tell you. That location was tagged in 2016, so we know it was after high school, which again contradicts Katie McLaughlin's testimony because she made it seem like this was just some girl that I knew in high school, and then we happened to be at the same places at various times, but I'm not close to her despite the fact that I have my arm around her in most of the photos. The other aspect of this, Your Honor, is that she said that she had not, Katie McLaughlin testified, she had not seen Caitlin Albert for I think 2 or 3 years prior to January of 2022. We have a baby shower photo that is from June of 2021. They are standing next to each other.
Do you have someone to authenticate that date?
Caitlin Albert will authenticate that date.
Why are you
Because
sure of that?
She's going to be showing a baby shower, which occurred in 2021.
Okay.
That's when it's timestamped on social media. And Caitlin Albert, her face and her body are in that photo. Katie McLaughlin's face and body are in that photo.
Yeah.
How many other people are in that photo?
I think there's 6. I have the photo. Get back there, Mr. Garrett. That's the one's for ID. Oh, thank you.
Or actually, if I can just see those, I thought these were different photos. If I could have those, then you don't need to count the people.
There are 5 other people in the photo with them, but they're together on the right side of the photo. These photos impeach the testimony of Katie McLaughlin multiple times.
Yeah, I understand that. Mine's on
particularly the bias of Katie
spring
McLaughlin,
break.
who purports to give incriminating testimony against my client, brand new testimony that only existed after she learned the identity of the homeowners in this case. This is classic bias and classic impeachment evidence. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to show photographic evidence of this relationship, much like this will shown photographic evidence of the 34 Fairview, what it looks like. It's intended to assist the jury. And in doing a 403 balancing test, Your Honor, the probative nature of this evidence greatly outweighs any prejudice. She's able to explain these photos any way she wants. When this
this non-prejudice shit on the fucking goddamn witness is bullshit. This is the only person that should not have any prejudice towards her while she's being defended.
Without being able to get into this, Your Honor, Katie McLaughlin's testimony It's like she's wearing a suit of armor. We can't get through it. We have the tools and the evidence to get through it. We have the ability to expose her as somebody that's misrepresented something very important to this court. But if we can't ask these questions and we can't get any of these photos, then we're not able to do it.
All right, Mr. Lally, what do you say?
You know, just as far as the authenticity of whatever these is, as far as social media is concerned, there's a variety of ways to fabricate that. And I think it's interesting that Mr. Giannetti is really vague.
Because you fabricate. Wait, hold on. Lally, are you saying that the defense is fabricating shit because you fabricate shit? You allowed fucking fabricated fucking text messages in as evidence? You allowed fucking fabricated Photoshop pictures in? What are you talking about? You even expose your motherfucking self, buddy.
About where these photos came from or how he knows the specifics that he's so sure about when they occurred, where they occurred, what state people were in, what day it was, who is college roommates of who within these photographs, but has no specifics about where these deluge of photographs came from. More importantly, Your Honor, what I would submit as far as Ms. Mclaughlin is concerned is she was entirely consistent, and I did the disparagement as far as what her testimony has been, as far as her statement within the report to Trooper Proctor, her grand jury testimony in this case, and her testimony before this jury on the stand were identical, if not entirely consistent. And again, it's not just Ms. Mclaughlin that is attributing this statement to the defendant. The jury has heard from 2 other firefighters, as well as anticipated other.
And they were told by her. You cannot hear it on the freaking video, Lally. You've heard the video, you dummy.
Witnesses who testified to these exact same statements that the defendant made outside the home on that date. What counsel I think is referring to as far as the could I have hidden is something that the defendant said to Ms. McCabe, which was overheard by Ms. Roberts on a speakerphone on the way.
Shut up, bitch. That wasn't nice of me. That wasn't very nice of me to tell him to shut the fuck up. Oops, my bad. Let me make sure you are where I need you to be. Okay, we don't give a fuck about the fan. Oh, we're starting off with the fucking the shit. The shit. There we go. That's what I want. Hey, Karen, they're not here to hurt you. Do he really believe that the photos were Photoshopped? It's because, okay, in almost every piece of evidence that shows her tail light, like that morning, like, you know, when she was leaving to go find him, when they show that her car's being towed, you know, getting out of her dad's driveway and being towed. They've and also the inverted video that they're going to bring in shortly, you know. Yeah, because they've done it. They love Photoshop and they love AI in their photos. I've just, it's right underneath. Like you see how my things show. Like I don't have no Photoshop or anything on mine, but they had Photoshop and AI on theirs. It's crazy. Like they exposed themselves and didn't even know that they were exposing themselves when they did it. And when Colin hits the stand, I'm sorry. But when Colin hits the stand, I mean his little, when they show his hand like this, you know, with his hand, you can tell it's Photoshopped. You can tell it's Photoshopped. Little pecker neck. I mean,
Good morning, jurors. I did not expect to have you come in and have us not be ready, but I do appreciate your patience with us. I do have those 3 questions. Was everyone able to?
Shut up, lady. They haven't done any of the fucking sort. Let's get you there.
Follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we
blah, blah, blah. Get to it.
Everyone said yes or not. affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent
come on.
research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left yesterday? No. Everyone said no.
I will
All right,
say
can we bring
that
Ms. Albert back in, please?
her age, even though she's a freaking old hat.
You saw this with the evidence given to the court during the case. I'm here to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did.
Thank you. You can sit.
Good morning.
Can I see yours?
Sure.
Good morning, Ms. Albert.
Good morning.
Ms. Albert, I'd like to go back to a discussion of Katie Mclaughlin.
Okay.
Yesterday, I asked you a 4-word question, and that question was,
This
who
is
Katie
only like
McLaughlin?
3
Do you recall that
hours.
question?
I do.
You would agree with me that your response was not, she's a firefighter.
Correct.
Your response was not, she's a friend.
Correct.
Your response was
Her
not, I've known her
boyfriend,
for
and
years.
then
Well, I sort of alluded to that when I said that I've known her since high school.
Right. Your response was that she was somebody that you knew in high school, correct?
I said that I went to high school with her and she's my same age. We graduated the same year.
Right.
Yes.
So you
hold on. Okay, so on this day, you'll have her boyfriend, and then you'll have the girls that were sitting with her brother for his birthday, and they were in exact same spots, never moved a muscle. Jesus criminy, it's a party, but they'll have her testify. They'll also have the girl testify that when she left with her aunt and uncle, that she's seen a dark blob on the ground, but nobody, not her, not anybody has seen anybody that was 6'2", 200 pounds in dark clothing on the ground. Nobody else saw it, but there's going to be a girl that's going to say that. It's miraculous.
high school, correct?
Yes.
All right. You would agree with me that you've seen her several times since high school, correct?
Yes.
You have hung out in the same group with her several times since high school, correct?
Yes.
You're
And
more than
you graduated
friends.
high school in
You're
2014.
close friends.
Yes.
We are.
It is now 2024.
You may have
Yes.
mutual
Your contact
friends,
with
but
Katie
you're still close
McLaughlin
friends.
has been fairly consistent over the years in that it continued at least until 2021, correct?
I would agree with that, although it was far and few between. But
Is that
throughout the
because-
years, yes.
Do you say that because the photographs are far and few between?
Objection.
Sustained.
You would agree with me
You
that
tried
there
it.
was not a
You
3-year
fucking
period
tried it.
prior to January 29th of 2022 where you didn't see Katie McLaughlin at all, correct?
A 3-year period?
Right.
I can't say 100% yes to that, but I wouldn't be surprised if I had seen her at some point in time over the past couple of years and before John O'Keefe's passing. Yeah,
Seen her a couple of times, does that mean that maybe you bumped into her and said hello?
it would mean that we would be in the same place at the same time, not something that I reached out and
Brilliant.
invited her to in any way, shape, or form. But, again, we have mutual
No,
friends,
yeah.
so I
Girl,
would not be
stop.
surprised if I went somewhere and
Not
she
that I invited her to. Girl, no one said you had to invite her. You have a close group of friends that you both hang out with. You're all close friends. Do you not understand that? Like, I get I bet you really do understand it, but you're trying to, trying to be funny. You're trying to be funny.
happened to be there as well.
Okay. And it would have been a surprise to you that she showed up at whatever
Look at her.
place you were at in those 3 years. Is that your testimony?
No, it would not have been a surprise to
You
me.
would have known in advance that Katie McLaughlin was going to be at the same place that you were in advance.
Not necessarily, but
Ever
if
in those 3 years?
Objection.
Girl, please.
Isn't it true that only
Okay,
8
I'm
months
going to
before
swim.
January 29th of 2022,
I will be
you and
here.
Katie McLaughlin were at a baby shower together?
Objection.
It's just,
Yes.
it's so dumb.
yes, we did.
It's so freaking dumb. Like, if you have nothing to fucking hide, you wouldn't have to do all this shit. You wouldn't. Like, you wouldn't have to say, oh, well, I never invited her there. We were just there at the same time type shit. But if you have nothing to fucking hide, you don't have to do that shit. It makes you look like a liar.
You were.
Whatever.
Whose baby shower was it?
It was a mutual friend
Keep
of ours.
lying.
What's her name?
Her name's Alyssa.
Keep
And
lying.
how many people were at that baby shower?
I can't say for sure. I mean, it was Alyssa's family
All right.
and a bunch of friends. I can't put a number on it.
She definitely is.
friends
She did
all
just
gathered
more.
together and took a photo together with
It was more
the
forever.
woman having the baby shower, correct?
Jump to the screen.
Was there a photo taken?
I believe
Shut
so.
up, Lally.
You were in that photo, correct?
Yes.
Who was standing next to you?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have it in front of me.
Okay, if you saw the photo, would that refresh your memory?
Trying to
Right,
act like, oh, we wouldn't be there at the same time because I didn't ask her. I didn't
showing
ask
you what
her
has
to
been
be
marked.
there.
Sorry, I'm just going to identify it as S for identification for the record, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm showing you what's been marked S. Could you take a look at that and look up at me when you're done? May I approach?
Yes.
Having reviewed that photograph, Ms. Albert, who is standing next to you?
One of my friends is on the left of me and Katie McLaughlin is on the right of me.
Okay. She's right next to you in that photo, correct?
Yes, she is.
That was in June of 2021, correct?
Yes.
So if somebody testified that you hadn't seen each other in 3 years prior to January 29th of 2022, that would be wrong, right?
Objection.
And with regard to the contact that you've had with her in terms of group events, you would agree with me that it wasn't just day trips that you took with her, correct?
Correct.
You've also gone on road trips with her, correct?
I've gone away on trips that she was with. I didn't drive with her or go with her or invite her, but she has been there, yeah.
Okay, and what road trips have you taken overnight where you and Katie McLaughlin have been together since high school?
Objection.
Sustained.
You've gone to Maine with Katie McLaughlin, have you not?
Objection.
So we need a time frame, Ms. Giannetti, not just 10
Sure.
years ago.
Since high school, you've gone to Maine with Katie McLaughlin, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Did you go to Maine with her?
I did, and the year would have been like 2015 or 2016.
If I suggested it was July of 2016, would that make sense?
That sound about right, yeah.
And while you were in Maine, there were 7 of you in a hot tub together, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were in a hot tub with Katie McLaughlin in Maine, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
You'd mentioned that you'd been to Maine with Katie McLaughlin in 2016. Where was it in Maine?
I'm not sure the exact town.
Right. Probably 4 hours away?
I'm not sure how long it took to get up there.
It wasn't 10 minutes away?
No.
Right? And it wasn't a half hour?
No.
All right. It was more than 2 hours, correct?
Maybe.
And you drove, correct?
Yes.
How many days did you spend in Maine?
I'm not sure. Maybe 2.
So you were up in Maine over a weekend?
Yep.
With Katie McLaughlin, correct?
Yes, as well as a bunch of other friends.
Oh, of course. But the answer to my question is you were with Katie McLaughlin, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
How many times have the two of you been to the beach together since high school?
Objection.
Do you know? If you can answer that, go ahead and answer.
I know that we have been to a beach together, but I don't know how many times. I could guess.
Don't guess.
Okay.
Next question, Ms.
You
Giannetti.
said a beach. Does that mean that the two of you only go to one particular beach?
No,
You've gone to multiple beaches with Katie McLaughlin, correct?
not that I can remember. I can't remember how many times. I have one memory, but I can't say for sure how many times I've been to a beach with Katie McLaughlin.
If I showed you a photograph of the two of you on a beach together in bikinis, would that refresh your memory?
Objection.
Ms. Giannetti, you can show her a photograph.
Thank you. Let me approach.
Yes.
Again, I'm showing you S for identification, one particular photo in S. If you take a look at that and look up at me when you're done. Does that refresh your memory?
Yep.
That particular photo that I showed you from S for identification, what beach was that?
I don't know the name of the beach.
Where was it?
I believe somewhere in the Cape.
And Katie McLaughlin is in that photo, correct?
Yes, along with a bunch of other friends.
Of course, there are other friends, but you.
Ms. Giannetti, please no more, of course.
Of course, Your Honor. With regard to that photo, once again, you are right next to Katie McLaughlin. Were you not right in back of her?
She's in front of me, yes, and the mutual friends that I already said that we have are also in the photo.
Of course. Let me ask you this: Has anybody in
So
this,
jurors are going to strike that, of course.
has anybody in this courtroom today asked you about the other mutual friends who were there? Did I ask you today whether there were other mutual friends in that photo?
Objection.
Sustained.
You added that to your answer, correct?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Yes.
Who are your college roommates?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Who were your college roommates?
Yeah, sustained.
How many college roommates did you have?
Sustained.
Fair to say that Katie Mclaughlin has been with you and your college roommates.
Yes.
When was that?
2015, 2016.
And there were 2 college roommates that you and Katie Mclaughlin were with, correct?
I had multiple college roommates at that time, and 2 of them were the mutual friend that Katie and I share.
And in fact, there was an occasion where you were in a kitchen with your 2 college roommates and 1 other person, correct?
Need a time frame or something, Ms. Giannetti?
Oh, that was around 2016, was it not?
That sounds about right, yes.
And do you recall which college roommates they were?
Sustained.
And someone took a photo of you, your 2 college roommates, and 1 other person, correct?
Sustained.
In 2016.
Sustained.
May we approach?
Okay.
It's like, Judge, let me get this out. This is crazy. Like the state can
Yes.
the state can clean it up.
I'm showing you another photo from S for identification, ma'am. If you look up, look at that and look up at me when you're done.
We can only get 3 drinks. Yeah, because we already got.
Who's in that photo?
Myself, 2 of my college roommates, and Katie Mclaughlin.
Yeah, if I
So
can't.
Katie McLaughlin's the only one in that photo who's not one of your roommates, correct?
Yes.
And was this a situation where she just showed up unexpectedly, like all the other times? You had no idea she was going to be there?
Ask the question differently. That it's sustained in that form.
It's
Did you
ridiculous.
expect-
Like,
whose kitchen is that?
It was the college house that I lived in.
It's your kitchen.
and he stopped, and she looks at the state, because the state's right up against where so here's the judge, right? The judge is facing this way, like this way, and their desk is like pushed right up against it. Like it's like pushed right up against it like this, you know? So the judge is looking this way and they're like this. And so she'll look at him like, please object to this, to try to get him out of this. And it's fucking bullshit. Let him fucking get it through. You can clean it up and say, oh, well, you did have a lot of friends there and da-da-da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. You could try to correct it. But let me tell you something. She already fucking, by her saying, yeah, but other friends were there. It doesn't fucking matter, girlfriend. It don't matter. Like, we get like you want to get that out, but Jesus, I'm not asking that. All I'm asking you is if you and her are in the same spot together. If you have nothing to hide, you don't have to add on that extra. You know what I'm saying? And you would know, like, hey, okay, well, I'm just here on, to testify as a witness. But if you have something to hide, you're going to feel like you're on trial, period. Because the defense, it's hard to testify, period. But if you're not willing to tell the truth, you're going to have a hard time. You're just going to have a hard time.
The house we were renting, yes.
You lived in that kitchen?
Yes.
And Katie McLaughlin's in your kitchen? Correct?
Yes.
Who invited Katie that day?
The two mutual friends that I lived with.
Okay. Certainly,
See,
you didn't
there we
invite
go.
Katie,
The two
correct?
I did not.
mutual friends.
Because you're not close friends with her at all, correct?
I am not.
In fact, you don't really
She always has to have that. Oh, with the two mutual friends that I had there. Girl, stop it. You don't have to add the extra in. Just, yes, she was there. It shows her more bias than you are. And it just shows that you're trying to cover up for her. Get the fuck on.
like her very much, do you?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You guys were teammates.
He goes, are you saying that because you don't like her that much, do you? I mean, somebody that I'm only going to call a mutual friend and she was just there. Yeah, that would show that I don't like her. So what is it? You don't like her?
On the track lacrosse country team back in high school, correct?
I don't recall that, actually. We could have been. I'm not sure.
I may approach?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Once again, place S for identification before you, ma'am. If you look at the first page and then the second page.
Why are you like reading it, girlfriend? It's pictures. Oh, it's from the yearbook.
Yes.
Oh, you didn't expect that to show up.
Having reviewed those 2 pages, does that refresh your memory about your teammate, Katie McLaughlin?
Yes, it does.
And you certainly were teammates in high school, correct?
Yes.
Oh my God, Katie just showed
And
up.
you would agree with me
I didn't
that
invite her.
that relationship continued in terms of your contact with her all the way up through 2021, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer the photos that are in S for identification as full exhibits in this trial.
It's like, oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. She's just one of those rep guys, girlfriend, type shit. Is that what we're getting at? Like, come on.
Objection.
Girl.
The objection sustained. You should put those back up with the clerk, Ms. Duna.
It was because it was from her yearbook. God forbid if they're trying to sneak shit in. Unlike them,
Now,
unlike the Commonwealth, they left.
you testified that you knew Brian Higgins prior to January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
You knew him as a good friend of your father's, correct?
Yes.
And another thing is they think like they get all this stuff to impeach these witnesses from Turtle Boy, which is a blogger. That's like I guess he broke the whole Karen Read thing because it'll come up. That's how I even knew about him. Like when I was watching this trial, I heard about him through one of the witnesses because they all want to claim witness intimidation. Oh, I'm so intimidated by somebody that's standing outside my house telling me to tell the truth. Not, bribing me, not doing anything like that, but he's telling me to tell the truth and I want to lie. Type shit, It's just dumb. Dumb as hell.
He arrived at 34 Fairview Road, your parents' home, on January 29th of 2022, after you got there, correct?
Again, yes, because me and my parents were the first ones inside from what I remember.
Did you see what Brian Higgins drove to get there?
I did not.
You did not see where he parked his vehicle.
I did not.
At some point, you saw him inside the home, correct?
Yes.
And he made it into the kitchen and dining room area where you were, correct?
Probably
Yes.
because maybe
You
Katie's more
agreed that at some point,
successful than
Brian
she
Higgins
is.
and your father, Brian
And all
Albert,
she is
left
is
that area to go to another room, correct?
Yes.
So it's fair to say there was.
I heard that she's kind of, she's a sugar mama. I mean, she's a pricey little girl. Like she's too bougie. Like wait till her boyfriend gets on the stand. It's crazy what he says.
There's at least some portion of the night
Like
when Brian Higgins and your father were out of your field of vision, correct?
I don't agree with that because the room that I had seen them go into has an open doorway and you can see right into the family room that they were in. So I could actually see them in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
How
sure.
long were you there when Brian Higgins and your father, Brian Albert, were there?
Inside the family room?
I'm talking from that whole night. When you're at 34
She
Fairview,
don't remember
how much
shit.
time
She
lapsed
must have been
between the time you first saw Brian Higgins and Brian Higgins left the residence?
I can't say for sure. If I had
Okay,
to
for
estimate, I'd
sure.
say an hour and a half.
Stop doing
And so
that.
your testimony before this jury is for that full hour and a half, there was no time when Brian Higgins and your father, Brian Albert, were out of your field of vision.
Not that I can remember.
Now, earlier that evening on Friday, January 28th,
Look,
you
now,
made plans to go out with your
now we're
mom,
getting
Nicole
stress
Albert,
signals.
your aunt, Julie Albert, and your boyfriend, Tristan Morris, correct?
Yes.
From the beginning of that night, the plan was for Tristan to go home early, correct?
Yes.
And that was because he had to get up early to plow or shovel, correct?
Yes.
He had to get up really early, correct?
Yes.
The plan was for him to shovel or plow at 3 a.m.?
He was, from what I recall, he was on standby for like 3. It could have been any time after that.
Oh, I see. So it could have been that he had to get up at 3 or maybe a little bit later, correct?
Yes.
And it was for that reason
He
that
had
when
to
he was
be
at
out
the
at 3
Waterfall with you,
because
he only had a
that's
couple
when
of drinks, correct?
Lucky Lachlan
From
said.
what I remember, yes.
And from the beginning of the
From what
night,
I remember.
you knew that
Stop that.
it was going to be iffy
It's either
as
yes,
to whether he would
no,
be able to get
maybe
much sleep
so,
at all,
bitch.
correct?
It wasn't really something we discussed.
Well, the reason he was going home early and only having a couple of drinks was
Girl,
to
how
see
much
if he
longer
could
are
catch
you
some
on the
sleep
stand? I can't
before what
stand
would be a very difficult
Yeah.
work morning, correct?
That's redemption.
Yes.
Oh,
And you
Nick,
knew
it's your
that in order for him to
boyfriend.
get any
That's
sleep, he
so
couldn't stay at the Waterfall very long,
cute.
correct?
What is he on that?
Yes.
And that's why he left early.
He's
Yes, he
on
went home to rest. We didn't speak about whether or not he would be
30
sleeping.
minutes?
It wouldn't shock you if he
Wow.
tried to go to sleep.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't.
You stayed believing
kind
that
of got a long testimony.
Tristan was going to try and rest and sleep, correct?
Yes.
And the plan when he left you was that you wouldn't see him.
No break? Hold on. Let me see. No break. No break in here? Oh. That's got to be the break. Yeah. That's a break. I knew there was a break. Okay.
Him again until after he was done with his plowing that morning, correct?
That's incorrect.
Okay. So is it your testimony that the plan from the beginning was that Tristan was going to drive from Canton to Easton and
She really
Get
is
some
driving
rest.
me nuts.
and then drive from Easton to Canton to
And
pick
really,
you up
she doesn't
so
have
he could take
anything
you
to offer
back
with this
from Canton to
case.
Easton? That was the plan?
It may not have been set in stone, but it was definitely spoken about. And then that's what ended up happening. Yes.
Have you ever told anyone that before, Ms. Albert, that the plan from the start of the night was that Tristan was going to make 4 trips total from Canton to Easton, Easton to Canton?
Yeah,
Canton to Easton?
that's
Have you
crazy.
ever told anyone that before?
I don't remember if I mentioned that to anybody.
That was the first time you've ever said that, just now before this jury. Would you agree with that?
Ooh.
I believe so.
Well,
Almost
why
2.5
didn't you
years
offer it
after
when you
January
got
29th,
Correct.
2 years, almost 2 years after? the fact?
Isn't it true that you decided at 1:45 in the morning that it was important for you to get home?
At 1:45, around that time is when Tristan picked me up, a little bit after that, but I didn't want to get snowed in at my parents' house.
It was important for you to leave 34 Fairview, correct?
No, they
I wouldn't say important, but it was something that I wanted to do. Yeah.
they got all together and came up with this concocted ass bullshit. But they don't realize, like, when the heat's on and you're like under fire, like you're not going to be able to remember all this shit. So she's breaking under pressure, trying to rectify her answers.
It was important enough for you to leave, correct?
Yes.
And you made the decision to have Tristan drive from Easton to Canton to pick you up, correct?
Yes.
How far is
Which
it
is
from Easton to Canton?
crazy.
From our apartment in Easton to 34 Fairview Road is about 18, 19 minutes.
Okay, and that's when there's not a snowstorm inside, correct?
Correct.
Of course, in a major snowstorm, you certainly can't drive as carefree as you can when you're driving in good road conditions, correct?
Right.
And your boyfriend was making that trip multiple times that night, correct?
Yes.
When Tristan picked you up at 1:45 a.m., did you bring Chloe out of the house with you to take to your apartment?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay.
That's a
On January 29th,
good
2022,
one.
you were there at your parents' house from around
Her
midnight
eyes
until
got
about
Right
1:45?
as shit. Hold
About
on.
a little bit.
That's a big one. Are you sure you didn't take Chloe out to your apartment? Her eyes got big as shit. Chloe's the dog, by the way. The dog that the defense is claiming that attacked John O'Keefe's right arm because plastic didn't do it. It was too. They're too. Yeah, it looks like bite marks to me, but I think you did, girl. I think you fucking did, girl. If you didn't take Chloe, then Jen McCabe did. One of the two.
After 1:45, yes.
Okay, and during that span of time, almost 2 hours, you never saw anyone pull up outside, correct?
I personally did not.
No. And you personally did not look out the window either, correct?
No, I did not.
And you personally never heard anything out of the ordinary outside, correct?
Yes,
That is correct.
the
You never
lion.
heard any yelling, correct?
That is correct.
No screaming,
Correct.
nothing smashing into anything else,
Correct.
no revenue.
Boom! You
Correct.
didn't
No
hear
noises
shit,
outside.
bitch.
Correct.
Nothing attracted.
You didn't hear no yelling, no screaming, no tires screeching, no car running in the middle of the fucking lawn. It would have ended up in the motherfucking house if you ask me, because it's a small fucking lawn. And if you're going 22 miles a fucking hour and hitting somebody, guaranteed your motherfucking ass is ending up in the middle of the lawn or the fucking goddamn house. Your guys' story don't fucking make sense at all. None. And anybody that owns a fucking car would know that. Because nobody drives 22 miles an hour backwards. Do you know how fast that is? Fucking crazy.
Your attention.
Correct.
You never saw any vehicle backup lights.
Correct.
You never saw any red lights outside.
Correct.
You heard zero evidence of anything that would lead you to conclude that there had been some type of car accident outside.
Objection. Sustained. You can ask it differently, Ms. Daniel.
You didn't hear a car accident.
Objection. Ask it differently.
Shut the fuck up. Let him ask
When you
it.
left 34 Fairview at 1:45, which door did you use?
I think I walked out the front door.
And the front door, could I have Exhibit 66 in today's? With the court's permission, made that display?
Did you either walk out it or you didn't?
Do you recognize Exhibit 66 as being a depiction
Oh, you need
of your
glasses
house?
too, you dumb
Yes.
bitch. Why does everybody
The
in your
front door
family
to
need
your home, there are
glasses to
actually two of
fucking
them,
see?
correct?
Yes.
Because
And
they're
when you
blind?
say the front door, you're referring to the door that's lit up in that photo?
Yes.
You can take that off the screen. I'd like to ask you some questions about what you saw or didn't see within the first couple of seconds while you were stepping outside. Coming out the front door of your house, you would agree with me that your parents' front lawn is directly in front of you, correct?
Yes.
By that time,
At
snow had
least, you
started to
know, the
accumulate at
next,
1:45
well,
a.m.,
your
correct?
boyfriend's allowed
Yes.
to stack shit.
Against
but
that white snow, did you see a
at
black
least the
baseball
next
cap?
girl is gonna
did
actually,
not.
As you
you know,
stepped out of the
semi
house, did you see a
fucking
black
tell them the
sneaker?
truth
I did not.
Did you see 45 pieces
about
of
what
red
happened.
taillight plastic?
I did not.
No. Did you see one piece of red taillight plastic?
I did not.
Did you see a 6'2" man on your parents' front lawn in
Yeah.
front of you?
Objection.
Did you? I did not.
You saw nothing unusual on that front lawn. of your
Yeah,
parents'
when you
lawn.
left, you didn't
I
see
did not.
shit. Oh, but I
Tristan had parked
wasn't
in the
looking over
driveway,
there.
correct?
I believe so.
When I say Tristan, I'm referring to Tristan Morris, who was your boyfriend, right?
Yes.
As you face the house, that driveway is to the right, correct?
Yes.
And as you're coming out of the house, the driveway is to the left, which makes sense, right?
Yes.
Where in the driveway was Tristan Morris parked?
I don't remember if he was on the left. My guess would be the left side of the driveway because that would have been closest to me walking out of the house. But I can't say for sure exactly where he was parked in the driveway.
In any case, you walked to his vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And actually, when I say his vehicle, it was actually your vehicle, right?
Correct.
That was the Jeep that you had at that time?
Yes.
And as you were walking to that vehicle, you would agree with me there were no obstructions between you and your parents' front lawn, correct?
Correct.
And as you were walking to that vehicle,
And you
again,
still
no baseball
didn't
hat,
see
no
a
sneaker,
man
no piece of
lying
red
there
taillight, and no 6'2" man
losing
did you
his
see
life.
on your parents' front lawn, correct?
You out
Correct.
of the
And there were
fucking
no,
mind.
strike that.
Because he wasn't there.
After you got
He
into the
wasn't
vehicle,
there at the
you
time.
got into the passenger's side
Yes.
because you had been drinking that night, correct?
Yes.
And it wouldn't have made sense for you to drive home to Easton, correct?
Correct.
So Tristan Morris backed your Jeep out of the driveway, correct?
Yes.
And the tail end of that Jeep, when he backed out, would have gone toward Cedar Crest, correct?
Correct.
Which would mean that the car was now facing toward the Chapman Street side, correct?
Yes.
And that would mean that
The
your Jeep,
lights are
being driven by Tristan,
illuminating.
would have driven directly by your parents' full property line, correct?
Correct.
And you
But
were
I
on the
wasn't
passenger's
looking
side
there.
of the
Watch,
car,
that's what
correct?
she's gonna
Correct.
The
say.
passenger side was closest to your parents' front lawn as you were driving away, correct?
Yes.
And you drove past the front lawn, correct?
Yes.
You drove past the flagpole, correct?
Yes.
I'm gonna say it.
And in all that time,
I'm
from
gonna
when
say it.
Tristan Morris pulled out of the driveway and drove right by your parents' front lawn, you never saw anything of the things that I previously asked you about, correct?
I did not, but I also was not looking.
You
See,
saw no baseball
Knew
hat, no
it.
sneaker, no piece of
I
red
knew you were
plastic, and
gonna
no
say I
6'2"
wasn't
man, correct?
looking, so you
Correct, but I
can't
also
say
was
you
not looking
didn't
out my
see that
window.
shit.
Let me ask you this. Did anybody in this courtroom ask you if you were looking out your window?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
That was an answer to a question that nobody asked you, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, at this point, you would agree with me that you've essentially circled your parents' front lawn, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you came out the front door and were facing the front lawn, correct?
Correct.
Then you're walking to the left, which means that the front lawn is to your right, correct?
Correct.
Then you're backing up
Boom,
out of the
he got
driveway,
you,
which means the
bitch.
front lawn is still
You
to your
got the
left,
rest
correct?
of you
Correct.
motherfuckers
And
lying.
when Tristan pulls the car such that when Tristan Morris pulls the car such that the car is now operating parallel to your front lawn, now the front lawn's to your right, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to all of that time that you were circling that front lawn, you never saw anybody or anything out of the ordinary on that lawn, correct?
I did not.
And you also didn't see any tire tracks in the snow, did you?
Nope.
Not that I can remember.
I'll make a moment.
Yes.
He nailed you.
No further questions, thank you.
Okay.
He even nailed your
Sterling?
dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because your dad said, I didn't see anything. And he didn't come in the house, but I wished you did.
Appointment.
Cried
Good morning.
shit. The dumb fucking question. If you're telling the truth, you don't have to offer statements like that.
Proctor, is that right?
Yes.
And you were asked about whether or not you met her kids, and you said once. Can you explain that?
From what I can remember, I forget exactly where I was,
Girl.
but my aunt Julie
If
Albert
you
had pulled
keep
up in her
on
car, and I was
saying
talking
if
to her,
I-
and she had
you
had the
remember?
2 kids in her backseat.
Remember?
I think she may have been babysitting them. I didn't ask for specifics, but she rolled down the back window, and that's when I met the 2 kids,
Quit
and that was it.
stumbling over
How
your
many years ago?
words there, girlfriend.
I can't say for sure, but definitely like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe.
The one time while they were in the backseat of a car
can't
a
say
couple
for
minutes
sure.
years ago.
Yes,
Adopt your freaking answers.
Did he conduct an interview with you?
never.
Now, as you were walking into the house, your testimony is that you saw Colin Albert walking out of the house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Without getting too much into it, as far as
No, he was in the house. She
you on a
didn't
high
see
school
him
track team, that
walking
was
out.
sometime prior to your graduation.
She did not
2015,
see him
correct?
walking
How
out.
many people were on your
Now she said she did.
Over 30,
She
maybe.
just said
About
she
30.
didn't see him.
Now, when you were at the house at 4 Fairview Road on the early morning of the 29th, your father, Ryan Albert,
There ain't
and
no
Ryan Higgins
cleaning up
were out of
this
the room,
mess.
being in the kitchen and the dining area for some period of time, correct?
Correct.
And about how long period of time are we talking?
Minutes, I would say at most, maybe like 5 minutes.
Like
At most.
Now, you were shown a drawing, essentially, in Exhibit 66 of your parents' house at 34 Fairview Road, up on the screen just now. Have
Yes.
you ever seen that before?
That exact photo, I don't believe
It
so.
doesn't
That
matter.
was even a photo, or would you be surprised if that was some sort of drawing or rendering of the house?
Yeah, I can't say for sure where that came from or what it is. I don't believe I've seen it before. Could you rephrase the question? Sorry.
It doesn't matter
My other
where
question
it
is, did you
came
happen to
from.
notice in that particular drawing that there were lights on your front door and lights on your
It's a
garage? Do you recall
rendering
that?
of
did
the
notice that, yes.
house, you
Whether or not
idiot.
those lights were on, or those lights even
He didn't
exist,
say
at
it
the
was
time that you were in the house
true.
on January 28th.
I don't recall.
He didn't say it was a true, it was a demonstrative, a demonstration. He didn't say, is this true
Yeah,
and
I can't say for sure
accurate,
if those lights were on.
sir, like you did, because you showed the house. He showed a rendering. Dumb as fuck.
Now, you were asking questions about exiting the house and coming over to Tristan's car, getting in, your car that Tristan was driving, and then backing out of the driveway and driving away. At any point in time, did you look over to the
But she
unlit
still
area
won't
on
adopt
the
her
left
answers.
side of your parents'
It's
property?
always from what I can remember, or I'm not sure, but it's she knows how to get out of it. Like, stop that.
You know, the flagpole?
Objection. Objection.
Form the question differently, Mr. Miller.
When you walked out the front door, where was your attention directed?
When I walked out the front door, I recall somewhat looking down, trying to make sure I didn't slip. The ground was completely covered with snow at that point. And then my direct.
Oh yeah, let's try to negate that where we didn't look. Hello, ma'am. Hello. Yes, you may look at the freaking ground for a little bit, but you also have to look everywhere so you don't fucking fall, not just the ground all the time. You know that, right? You have to look down, up, down, up, down, up, right? Anybody that knows that a snowstorm, you act like there's tons of snow on the ground. There was only 3 to 5 fucking inches on the ground when Officer O'Keefe was found on your lawn. It had just barely
Direction
started to
was
stick.
towards Tristan's car.
You only had 1 to 2 inches, I guarantee you, on that fucking ground. It wasn't fucking slippery. It was just barely starting to stick, you fucking, you high maintenance bitch. Jesus
Car, so
Christ.
to the left. Then once I got in the car, I was turned again to the left, speaking with him for the majority of the first couple minutes of our car ride back home to Easton.
Now, so when you exit the door, you come onto the brick steps, correct?
Yes.
And brick steps are covered in snow at that point?
Yes.
Do you recall what you were wearing on your feet? Were they high heels, flats?
I think I had high heel like boots on, something of that nature.
Oh, yeah, that's going to help you. Then when you know it's going to be a snowstorm, you dumb broad. See, high maintenance. Like, girl, please. See, you're trying to say, oh, I was in heels. See, so you're trying to make it more crazy that you have to walk on it, right? Mm-hmm. I don't believe it.
You're walking down the brick steps that are covered in snow in high-heel boots, correct?
Yes.
And then you're walking over to your car and getting.
It was barely starting to snow, Lally. I'm tired of this. It's blizzard shit. Because it wasn't a blizzard. It didn't start being a blizzard until fucking later, sir. Jesus.
Getting in the passenger side, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like there was 12 inches on the ground.
Did you, at any point in time,
Or not 12 inches, but 12 feet on the ground.
Yard area of your parents' home in the area of the platform.
I did not.
And then you get in the car and you're driving away and you're talking to Tristan, is that correct?
Yes.
And so Tristan is driving, you're in the passenger seat, is that correct?
Yes.
So you're looking at him but away from the front lawn as you're driving, correct?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Very briefly, Judge.
Okay.
Maybe you just testified that the one time that you saw Courtney Proctor's kids, they were with your aunt Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
Ooh, caught Julie in a lie.
That was an estimate. I can't say for sure, but yes.
It wasn't 10 years ago.
No.
2 or 3 years ago, right now it's May 14th of 2024. 2 years ago would be May 14th of 2022.
Yes.
3 years ago would have been May 14th of 2021, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Caught her in
Okay,
a
you are all set, Ms. Albert. Thank
lie.
you.
Mr. Lally, who is your next witness?
Yeah, they're not supposed to lead the witness. Like, it's not supposed to be yes or no questions. See, the defense, they can lead. But the prosecution, it's supposed to be open-ended questions where it's more open-ended. That way they get to, the witness gets to testify, not, just answer yes or no questions. Because basically he's testifying for her. That's basically what that is.
Yes, Your Honor, call Mr. Tristan Morris to the stand.
Of course she's mad because she got caught in some lies. And she caught her aunt because her aunt said that she didn't date. I mean, she didn't watch Michael Proctor's Children, but maybe 10 years ago. And instead, here it is that she watched them 2 to 3 months ago. So yeah, so she just screwed the whole family, not knowing. But hey, oops, you can't prepare for all.
Watch a step right there.
And this is her boyfriend. They've been together for 5 years, and he's barely just after to marry him, I guess, last year.
Okay, whenever you are ready, Mr. Lally. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Tristan Morris. Morris, Morris.
Morris.
Ms. Morris.
Morris.
Easton.
And who, if anyone, do you live there with?
Caitlin Albert.
And what is the name of your relationship with Caitlin Albert?
She's my girlfriend.
And how long have the two of you been together?
Roughly 8 years.
Oh, 8
And,
years. My bad.
With respect, well, let me ask you this. Do
He
you
hasn't put a
Yes,
ring
I do.
on until just
I'm a
barely.
union pipe fitter.
Geez, she must
And-
be hiding. Yeah.
How long have
It's
you
like
been-
a mom.
6 years.
Now, if I could turn your attention to the evening of January 28th, 2022.
It's like a mauve or a light maroon.
Early morning of the 29th?
It's mauve.
Yes, I do.
And do you recall what days of the week
Definitely
those were?
Friday and Saturday, I believe.
And on that particular Friday, what, if any, plans did you have yourself and your girlfriend, Caitlin Albert?
For me, it was just an ordinary day. I went out and I met them for a drink.
And about what time?
So I'm going to ask you to keep your voices. Okay?
Okay.
You indicated you went out and met them. Who was that?
My girlfriend, Caitlin, and that's all I remember.
And do you recall where was it you went?
Waterfall Bar and Grill.
That's somewhere that you and Caitlin had been to before.
Yes, multiple times.
And do you have any idea what time that was on the 28th?
I don't recall.
And do you recall if anyone
There we
else
go
was
with
there?
the I don't recall already.
No, I do not.
Do you recall whether or not either of her parents were there?
I don't remember.
He
You're familiar
really
with your
is.
parents, though, that they're exact?
Yes, I am.
You're familiar with the family, correct?
Yes, I am.
And if you recall, about how long was it that you were at the waterfall that evening?
I couldn't estimate, but it wasn't that long.
And wasn't that long? What was it that caused you to leave that?
Later that night, I had to go
You should
plow.
knock him off the
I was
witness
supposed to wake up
list
pretty early.
if he doesn't offer
And as
anything.
far as plowing, is that something that you do sort of on the side on a fairly regular
So I
basis?
picked up my
Yes, when I can
girlfriend
do
at
it, I
12
do it. It's
o'clock.
extra money.
Well,
And,
she had
how is it
text
that, what
messages.
if
If
any
you
relationship
extracted
you
her
have with the company
phone,
that you're doing sort of
hey,
plowing
you
with?
would have those
It's
text
my landlord's
messages
company.
now, would you?
And is that, when you say plowing, is that sort of residences?
Yes, they
businesses,
love
or
to
something?
drink and
All of those
drive.
residence houses,
But
anything,
the only
businesses,
one to
could be anything.
fault is Karen
Could be
Read.
a commercial parking lot, could be a condo, could be a business park, any of those things.
Correct.
And about what time was it, if you know, that you were supposed to sort of be ready or on call to go out?
So we were waiting for the snow. I just had to be on call for 3 to 4 in the morning, just have my phone on standby and be ready to go. Just how it always is.
Because 3 to 4
And
is
so
when
you
it was starting to get
when
heavy.
you went to the waterfall,
See?
and at that time, was it snowing?
But he's making
I don't
it-
believe so.
And when you got the waterfall to go home, why did you went home to rest?
That's
after
not
everything?
lavender.
Yeah, I needed to sleep, yes.
Lavender's light
And when
purple.
you left the waterfall to go home to Easton to get some rest or to get some sleep, was it
Kevin.
snowing at that point?
I don't remember.
And at some point prior to you going out and either plowing or shoveling early that morning, who, if anyone, was contacted?
Can you repeat the question, please?
After you
His
went home to
questions
rest
are done,
or get some sleep,
Tristan.
first of all,
Just
were you able to get any sleep?
ignore.
Barely.
And while you were home in Easton,
Why
who,
you're
if
even
anyone,
here, I don't
was
know.
reaching out?
Yes, my girlfriend.
And so your girlfriend, Caitlin, was it calling, texting? How was she reaching out to your call?
I believe both.
And about what point in the evening did you start to?
Where are their
get
text
all the
messages?
I
If
don't
she
remember.
was calling and
And
texting,
at some point,
and you need that for proof, because you could bring in her text messages for proof. You don't need this fucking douche. God, no wonder this first trial lasted 9 fucking weeks. I hope the second one doesn't last that long. I really do.
based on those calls and texts, what if anything?
Can you elaborate?
At some point, did you leave Easton and go back to Kent?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any recollection of when that was over the course of the
Look
evening?
at
or
your phone.
No, I
I
don't remember
can't
the time.
look at your phone.
And in relation to when you got,
How am I supposed to look at your
as far as
phone,
the
Kevin?
calls and the texts that you received from your girlfriend Caitlin, was that something? Was that one or two, or were they repetitive?
There was a couple different texts, yeah.
And over the course of about how long a period of time? Was it all within a couple minutes,
How
or
the fuck
hour,
am I
hours?
supposed to look
I don't
at your phone?
And after receiving those, you went to somewhere in Canton, correct?
Yes.
And where did you go?
34 Fairview Road.
Are you familiar with that address?
Yes, I am.
And familiar with it because at some point during the time that Caitlin were dating before you moved in together, she lived there, correct?
Correct.
And about how long a drive is that from where you live in Easton to 34?
How about you screenshot it?
21 to 25 minutes, I would say.
And then I'll look at your
And do you
phone.
recall what vehicle you were driving on that occasion?
I do. I was driving a white Jeep Cherokee.
And whose white Jeep Cherokee is it?
Caitlin's.
And did you have a vehicle at that time?
I did.
What kind of vehicle did you have?
I believe it was a Ford Fusion.
A fairly older Ford Fusion.
2012, yes.
And so why was it that you took the girlfriend Jeep Cherokee versus your older Ford Fusion?
It drives way better in the snow.
And so when you left your apartment in Easton to drive to 34 Fairview in Canton, was it snowing at that point?
It was.
Hold on one second. Mr. Yannetti, can you? Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So when you were driving from Easton to Canton, it was snowing. Do you recall how much snow had come down at that point?
I don't recall.
And what, if anything, do you recall about sort of the snow that was on the ground in relation to how you drove from Easton to Canton?
I was very cautious. I was 10 and 2 the whole time.
Did I get you?
And when you arrived at 34 Fairview, where did you park?
I don't remember.
You recall whether you parked on the street or the driveway? Or
No, I don't know.
and when you arrived, what, if anything, did you communicate to Kate?
I just told her I was here.
Was that through text or call? Do you know?
Text, it would be.
You pull up at some point, park somewhere, text her.
Where are their text messages?
And at some point, she
Jesus.
comes out of the house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you ever get out of the car? Or go
You went invasive all on Karen's phone. You got fucking Karen and Jen McCabe's phone that and let her delete messages and shit before she handed over. Weird as fuck. Then you fucking got Carrie Roberts' phone. Why didn't you get anybody in the house's phone, sir? God. Oh, but you let screenshots of the fucking text messages in by somebody that's supposed to be, a third-party culprit.
the house or go inside the house or anything like that?
No, I did not.
And how much time was it?
Ain't got no fucking evidence. I don't even know how it's even
I don't remember.
going to trial.
Long time or anything like that?
get
No, it wasn't.
And when she comes out, do you recall sort of where within the front of the house she came out?
No, I don't remember.
You're familiar with 34 Fairview, though, correct?
I am.
There's a couple different doors on the front of the house. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But you don't recall specifically which door she came out of?
No, I do not.
And when she came out, she came over to the car, correct?
Correct.
She gets in. Which part of the car did she get in?
Oh my
Passenger.
God, what does it
Front seat
fucking
passenger.
Front seat
matter?
passenger.
And at some
This
point, you're
is the
leaving
dumbest
from
line of
34 Fairview, you're going back,
questioning
correct?
Correct.
Was
ever.
there any sort of delay or any sort of long period of time that you were in the car in front of the house?
When is
after
the
Caitlin gets in
fucking
car?
defense
No.
getting up here? Because
So
I
she
can't
gets in
take
and
this
you pull
anymore.
Correct.
And
Oh,
when you
he's
pull away
still-
from the house,
thank God.
where do you recall which
Jeez.
direction you went into to go back?
I went up Fairview Road.
And so up Fairview Road would be sort of heading towards Chapman Street, is that correct?
Yes.
And And so as you're going by the house, which
You
side of the
asked
vehicle
the
would have been
dumbest
facing the house?
fucking
Driver's side of the
questions.
vehicle is passenger side.
Can you repeat that?
As you're going
I'm
by the
surprised
property
you
of
didn't say,
Fairview Road,
oh,
which side of the
Chapman
Jeep is
Street
driving
on a
is facing
decline?
34 Fairview Road?
The left.
Which side of her side?
My side would be facing the street. If I'm coming down, my side would be facing the left side.
And what I'm asking is when you're driving away.
Away, yes, the passenger side would be facing her house.
And as you were coming there, would it be the driver's side or your side that was facing the house? If you recall which way you came.
I don't recall.
But as you were leaving the
Of
house,
course you don't
Caitlin's
recall,
side or the
because
passenger
that
side
would
would be facing the house,
fuck
correct?
him
Correct.
up.
And as far as the snow that's coming down, as
But
you're
I
driving
bet
away,
you
what
he
if
didn't
anything
see a
did you have
man
to
lying
do
on the ground.
With regard, what if anything did you do? with
And
regard
they
to
all
the
were
vehicle
picked up or
coming from on
left
or anything as you're driving?
after
No, I did not.
supposedly
Did you have
she
a
hit him with the
cross
car.
Yes,
Did you have windshield wipers on?
This
Correct.
place is dumb as
So the snow was coming down at least at a
Correct.
pace that you had the windshield wipers on, correct?
yes,
And during that drive, specifically on Fairview Road, but at any point during your drive to Fairview and from Fairview, do you recall
Stupid-ass
anything as far as
questions, I
how the
swear.
roads work, were they treated, did you see plows out, anything like that?
I love you.
I don't recall.
Oh. What?
Can I have one moment, Ron?
Yes.
Now, as far
Wow.
as when Caitlin gets into your car, how would you
Oh.
describe her?
When you
Normal as always.
Nothing out of the ordinary that you observed?
Absolutely not.
She gets in the car, is it fair to say you guys have seen each other for a couple hours, you start talking?
Correct.
And so when you're talking, you're driving, she's in the passenger seat, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when she's facing
Oh
you
my
up, are you
God.
talking to her as you're
how
facing
does he know if she's facing left,
her?
right,
Nothing further.
at him or whatnot?
Hang on.
Get out of here.
Good morning.
You've been dating Caitlin Albert for 7 to 8 years now.
Correct.
That's
The two of you now live together.
Correct.
Are you still living in Easton?
Yes.
How long have you lived together for?
3 years.
When
God
you first met
damn.
her,
You
where was she living?
Canton.
Where in Canton?
34 Fairview.
She was living there with her parents at the time,
Correct.
Brian and Nicole Albert.
Yes.
You met her parents, Brian and Nicole Albert, several years ago, correct?
Correct.
You've met all of Caitlin's siblings as well.
Correct.
You've spent time at their house.
Yes.
You've spent holidays with them.
They
Yes.
didn't-
Uh,
they didn't
and you've been over there on
shit.
weekends, correct?
Yes.
It's fair to say that over the last 7 or 8 years, you've been with the Albert family quite a bit, correct?
Yes.
And you've also been with the McCabe family, correct?
Yes.
And even though you're not married, you consider yourself just about one of the family, correct?
Yes.
Circle of
Since-
trust.
John O'Keefe's death, you have continued associating with both the Alberts and the McCabes, correct?
Yes.
Because you're still dating and living with Caitlin, correct?
That is correct.
And in June of 2022, a few months after John O'Keefe's death, you went to Ned Devine's in Boston with many, many men in the family, correct?
Yes.
That
Many
includes
men.
the Alberts,
Many,
correct?
many,
Yes.
many
and that
men.
includes the McCabes.
Yes.
Do you recall who was there that night?
No, I don't.
I showed you a photograph from that night. Is that a fresh memory?
Yes.
May I approach one?
Yes.
Many men wish death upon me. Oh, me,
I
oh,
put the
my.
photograph before you.
He's
Take a
like
look
not
at that
even
and look at
touching.
me when you're done.
He doesn't even want to touch the
Yes.
son of a bitch.
Does that refresh your memory about who was there that night?
It does.
Are you, by the way, how many people are in that photograph?
Do you want me to count?
With the court's permission.
Okay, go ahead and count. And after you count, let's mark this for identification, please.
Yes.
12. 12 people, including myself.
Okay, if I could have that mark for ID.
12, including myself.
And then he just wants to get it right in there, Judge. He doesn't give a fuck about identifying the fucking picture. He just wants to get it right in. Right in, right in.
You would agree with me, sir, that at that night at Ned Devine's in Boston, everybody there was, except for you, was either an Albert or a McCabe?
Yes, that's correct.
And the photo that you or somebody decided to take was all of you with your fists clenched, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Ooh, you had your
Did you clench your
everybody
fists
had
that
their
night?
fins
Objection.
clenched
Sustained.
in
Did
the
all of the Alberts and
picture.
McCabes clenched
Objection.
that night?
Sustained.
That photo was posted to social media, was it not?
Like this.
Yes, it was.
And it was posted by somebody named Kevin Read.
Yes.
Kevin Read.
My girlfriend's cousin.
He's actually the son
You guys
of
are a
one
little
of
punchy,
Nicole
are you?
and Julie Albert's sisters, correct?
Looks bad on you.
Yes.
And you've met him as well, correct? And do you recall the date that that photograph was posted to social media?
No, I don't.
I showed you Z for identification again. Did that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Everyone was doing this, but you. You aren't part of the
I'll take that.
circle of
Have you got a chance
trust,
to look at it?
buddy.
Having reviewed Z for identification, does that refresh your memory as to the date of the
Not
posting
part
of
of
that
the
photograph?
circle of
Yes.
trust.
Were you aware at that time that anybody, what date was it?
You're
showed
indispensable.
me.
I mean,
I know, and I'm asking you
you're
to tell the jury.
disposable.
It's June 5th. It was dated.
Of 2022?
Yeah.
Were you aware that June 5th of 2022 was 4 days before Karen Read was indicted for this case?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained.
Were you and the Alberts and the McCabe's celebrating the indictment of Karen Read?
Objection.
Were you?
No.
Yes. You were.
Thank you.
Possibly. Because you're the Fighting Irish.
You've never testified before any grand jury regarding this case, correct?
I haven't.
You've never testified previously in any hearing regarding this case, correct?
I haven't.
You were at
Then
34
what the
Fairview
fuck are they
Road in
calling
Canton
you?
at 1:45 in the morning or about 1:45 on January 29th of 2022, correct?
I don't remember the time.
Oh,
What-
you don't remember the time? Remember the time when we first met, girl. Sorry. Oh. Y'all don't remember. Did you have to use the one? Or? Oh, okay. Thanks. So you don't remember the time. See this I don't remember shit. You got fucking cross-examination. Amnesia. You can't remember shit. I know if something traumatic happened. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. I know you don't guys don't want to hear my story. But one day I went out to lunch. And this was in 2020. No, it wasn't even 20. It was 2007, I think, because I hadn't had my child yet. We went out to lunch, and I seen this group of guys take this other guy and ram his head into the side of a truck, and he was sitting there bleeding to death, and I had to render aid to him. I still remember that shit. How you people don't remember what the fudge happened? And that's, I don't know how many years ago that was. That's almost 20 years ago. And you guys don't remember what happened 1 year ago? 2 years ago? This is crazy.
Was it wildly different than 1:45 in the morning, or was it somewhat close to that?
I'm not going to make up the time. I don't remember.
Was it 9 p.m. on the 28th?
I don't remember times.
So if I asked you if you were there to pick up your girlfriend Caitlin at 9 p.m. on January 28th, you couldn't say if that's
because I do get that we
No,
all
because I'm not making up the
have
time.
differently, and I understand
Okay,
that
so
some
it could have been
people.
9 p.m. that you were there, not 1:45 in the
No,
morning.
it's like
I didn't say
10
that.
people in the family. Well, like
You've just said that you can't rule out that it was actually 9 p.m. on the
there's like
28th.
5
didn't you?
people
Objection,
that
Your
are part
Can you
of
answer that? Did you say that?
and they all.
I didn't say anything. I don't remember time.
Can't remember.
No, I understand.
So I'm not going to make up the time.
Hold on. Only one person can speak at a time.
I don't, it could have been later, could have been early. I don't know time.
But it couldn't have been 9 p.m. on January 28th. Could it have been?
I don't know.
Okay. What time were you at the Waterfall?
I don't remember.
Were you at the Waterfall?
Yes, it was.
On what date?
The 28th.
Are you sure you were there? Are you sure you were there?
Was it in the morning?
It was at nighttime.
Okay. What time did you leave the Waterfall?
I don't remember.
Of course you don't
5
remember.
p.m.
But you remembered
I don't
everything the fucking goddamn prosecution asked
Could have
you.
been 5 in the morning. I don't know.
Jerk face. No, you didn't. You don't remember shit.
Leaving aside what time it was,
You have nothing to offer, like the defense or the prosecution.
will you testify that you were at 34 Fairview Road on January 29th after midnight?
I don't remember the time.
But you do remember being there, correct?
At the Waterfall?
No, at the 34 Fairview.
I remember picking my girlfriend up. Yes.
You do, because you testified to that, right?
Right. Yes.
And when you were there, you had an opportunity to see the front lawn to that property, did you not?
Yes.
You pulled into the driveway?
I don't remember where I pulled into.
Okay, did you pull into any place?
Oh my
when you got
God,
there?
you don't
remember
remember
where I pulled
shit.
So you say you don't remember where you pulled into. That wasn't
Like
my question.
you
My
should
question
know,
was,
like
did you
your
pull
normal
in any
routine
place
if
when
you
got to
drop
34
her
Fairview?
up.
Well, I had to pick my girlfriend up. So yes, I
Where
did.
you pick her up at?
Was there any place
Jesus
other than the
Christ.
driveway to pull into when you got to 34 Fairview?
No.
So it had to be the driveway, right?
Must have been.
And when you pulled into the driveway, you waited
Were you
a period
drunk?
of time for Caitlin, correct?
Yes.
And how long a period of time was that?
I don't remember.
Was it more than a half hour?
No.
Was it more than 10 minutes?
I don't remember.
It could have
Oh
been more
my-
than 10 minutes.
Probably wasn't.
And when you say probably wasn't, that means it probably was less than 10 minutes, correct?
I don't remember the time.
You're just
During
not a
that time
healthy
that you were
either
waiting
way.
Caitlin to come out of the house while you were in the driveway, there was nothing obstructing your view of the front lawn, correct?
Nope.
All right. And shifting gears for a second, this was on January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And ultimately, you did pick up Caitlin and take her back to Easton, correct?
Correct.
See, she
On
probably
January
wasn't
29th,
even
at
there
any
that
point that day
fucking
or night, Trooper Michael Proctor never interviewed you, correct?
Correct.
Nor did he interview the next day or the day after that, correct?
Correct.
Or the month of February, correct?
Correct.
Or the entire year of 2022, correct?
Wow.
Or the entire year of 2023, correct?
Correct.
The first time any investigator of this case interviewed you was May 7th of 2024, correct?
Wow.
When was that? I don't.
That was 1 week ago. That was last Tuesday.
Correct.
Wow.
You were aware
Really? Why would they
at the
even
time you
call
were
him
being
then?
interviewed for the first time by any investigator, this case had already started.
Yes.
You were aware
This
that
is
this
dumb
jury
as hell.
heard opening statements from both counsel on April 29th, which was over a week before May 7th, correct?
Yes.
So it wasn't until over a week after opening statements that somebody from the state police finally interviewed you, correct?
Nobody from the state police interviewed me.
Who was it that interviewed you?
Molly.
Nobody interviewed me. I spoke to the DAs about coming in here. That was about it.
Okay, I thought you had just testified that on May 7th, that was the first time an investigator reached out to you.
Yes.
All right. And when I use the term interview, I don't mean that somebody put a bright spotlight on you and took you into an interrogation room. I'm just asking somebody to ask you questions.
You are
Yes.
weird.
I'll let it stand.
Thank you, Ron.
He looks
And
so
that interview
scared.
did not take
Now
place in
he's
person, correct?
scratching his
No, it did
head
not.
and
That
going
was a phone
all
interview,
that.
correct?
Correct.
And your
Well,
attorney
they
was on the
better
line
not
for that,
call you
correct?
next
Correct.
time, because you have
Now-
nothing to hide. I mean, nothing to
From the
hide.
beginning of the
You
night
can't
on January
remember
28th,
it.
your plan was to go home early, correct?
Correct.
You weren't drinking much, correct?
That is correct.
You had to get up early.
Yes.
Can
And
still
it
hear
actually
him
was
just.
really early. It could have been as early as 3 a.m.,
background.
correct?
Correct.
So from the beginning, you knew that you weren't going to get much sleep, correct?
Yes.
Oh,
And
Lord.
if you were going to get any sleep, you couldn't stay at the Waterfall all night, correct?
That is correct.
So you left early.
Yes.
And you plan to go home, get whatever rest or sleep you could get, and then wait for the call to go out plowing, correct?
That is correct.
The plan from the beginning was not for you to leave the Waterfall, go to Easton, and then drive back from Easton to Canton to pick up Caitlin, and then take her back to Easton so that you could wait for the call for plowing. That was not the original plan, correct?
No, it wasn't.
No, of course it wasn't. So I apologize, Ron. I withdraw that comment. But the plan changed, correct?
Yes.
And that was because you heard from your girlfriend, Caitlin, correct?
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you a question and hope I get an answer. Do you recall what time it was that she contacted you?
No, I don't recall.
Did anybody instruct you not to talk about any times that anything happened?
Absolutely not.
How did Caitlin contact you that night?
Via text, via phone.
And you were in Easton when she did that, correct?
Yes.
She was at 34 Fairview?
Yes.
And by the way, the snowstorm was no surprise to you that night, right?
No.
I mean, that's why you were waiting to plow, correct?
Yes.
That snowstorm had been forecast.
Yes.
And it had started snowing by midnight, correct?
I don't remember when it started snowing.
But for some reason, Caitlin now needed to get picked up before you went plowing, correct?
Yes.
That meant, despite the fact that you had to get up potentially at 3 a.m., you now had to make the trip back and forth between Canton and Easton a second time, correct?
Yes.
And you considered it to be important enough that you agreed to pick up Caitlin, despite the changing plans, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, when you pulled into that driveway, you at least temporarily parked in the driveway waiting for her, correct?
Yes.
What other cars were in the driveway at that time?
I don't remember.
What side of the driveway did you park on?
I don't remember.
After you parked, you texted Caitlin to tell her that you were there, correct?
Yes.
And you previously testified that you don't remember how long it took for her to come out of the house, correct?
I don't remember.
And I started to ask you, and I'll just finish that line of questioning. At that point, the front lawn of the house was to your left, correct?
It would have been yes.
Right. And there were no obstructions between you and the front lawn blocking your view, correct?
I wouldn't be staring at her grass, so no.
Okay. I didn't ask you where you were staring. I was just asking if there were any obstructions.
Okay, yeah.
And the answer to that question is?
No.
Was snow starting to accumulate at that time?
I don't remember.
You recall if there was any snow on the ground?
Yes, because I was driving cautiously.
And against that white snow, did you see a black baseball cap?
Absolutely not.
And as you sat in that driveway, you also did not see a black sneaker?
Absolutely not.
And you also did not see 45 pieces of red plastic?
No.
Or even one piece?
No.
And you certainly did not see a 6'2" man on the lawn of your girlfriend's parents' home, correct?
No, I did not.
You saw nothing unusual in that front area of the lawn, correct?
No, I did not.
Caitlin got into the Jeep.
Correct.
The plan was for you to drive the Jeep back to Easton with her, correct?
Yes.
You backed out of the driveway, correct? And you turned the rear end of that car toward Cedar Crest, correct?
Not towards Cedar Crest. I was going up the hill. So
Okay,
Fairview.
if I suggested to you that going up the hill would take you towards Chapman, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And the other end of the street was Cedar Crest, right?
Towards that way, yes.
Okay. So the rear end of your car was towards Cedar Crest, and you were facing up the hill towards Chatham, right?
Yes.
All right. That would have meant that you were driving your vehicle past really the entire length of Brian Albert's front lawn, correct?
Yes.
And the front lawn would have been on Caitlin's side of the car, correct?
Yes.
And you drove past the flagpole that you're familiar with, correct?
Yes.
And as you drove past that entire front lawn, you never saw any of the things I previously asked you about, the baseball hat, the sneakers, the pieces of red plastic, or a 6'2" man, correct?
I did not.
You saw nothing out of the ordinary, correct?
Correct.
And you saw no tire tracks in the snow leading to the Albert's front lawn, did you?
I did not.
You didn't see anything that would lead you to conclude that there would have been a car crash there, correct?
Absolutely not.
Sustained.
No further questions? Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, anything, Mr. Lally?
Just briefly, Your Honor. That photograph that you were showing, do you know what that was, what that gathering was in regards to?
No, I don't.
Now, prior to leaving the Waterfall, or during the course of any of the texts or phone calls that you received from Caitlin, was there any sort of reason that was discussed as far as picking her up and bringing her to Easton before you went off to Platt?
Can you repeat that?
From your discussions with Caitlin, what was the reason that you went back to 34 Fairview to pick her up and bring her home?
Okay.
We'll allow it. Why'd you do that?
Well, she's high maintenance. I didn't really want to have to deal with it.
She wanted to come home, is that correct?
Yes.
And did she say why she wanted to come home?
I want to get snowed in.
I'll allow it.
Now, you testified before that as you were driving around that night, you were cautious and your hands were attentive to, is that right?
Absolutely.
So as you're driving past your girlfriend's parents' house, was there any reason, excuse me, was there any reason for you to direct your attention to the front lawn area of their home?
Absolutely not.
Nothing further on.
Okay, you are all set.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, you're on the call. I'll call Ms. Sarah Levenson to the stand. All this way, so watch your step up. Name, stand, face the clerk.
Raise your right hand. I'll try to execute the court jury in case I'm here to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see you screw up and pull down that microphone. You talk really loud into it. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Sarah Levenson, Levinson.
And where do you live now?
Canton,
How long have you lived in Canada?
my whole life.
You know,
Yes,
all
with
this
anyone doing
evidence
anything.
that,
My
I mean,
parents.
all these witnesses,
Now,
Lally
working?
keeps on
Yes.
bringing the freaking,
I'm a
DA.
registered nurse.
You know,
And how long have you been a registered nurse?
3 years.
Now, if I could turn your attention to
mostly when everybody says the same, are about to say the same thing, like, oh, I didn't see a body. Oh, I left at this time. Oh, da da da. They usually try to cut that down, dwindle that down, so then there's not a lot of wasted time, basically wasting the jury's time. Like, it's almost like he's trying to hammer it home because he doesn't have facts and evidence behind him, that he has to hammer it home with all these dang stupid witnesses when they all say the same thing. It's just
evening of January 28, 2022 into the early morning of 29th. Do you recall those days?
Yes.
Do you recall what days of the week?
Friday was the 28th, Saturday the 29th.
And as far as that evening of the 28th, what, if any, plans did you have for that?
My plans were to go to my friend Brian's house for his birthday celebration.
And so your friend, that would be Brian Albert Jr., is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know how old he was turning for his birthday?
23.
And how long or how did you know Brian Albert Jr. at that time?
oh my God, it really
we met
doesn't
in high
matter
school.
how
He's the
long
grade below
she's
me,
known
so
him or
I would
how
say
long.
now it's been about 10 years, so about 8.
And that his house as far as 34 Fairview Road, had you been there before?
Yes.
Plenty of times, is that?
Yes.
And on that particular evening, how was it that you came to be there? How did you get there?
My friend Julie's father drove us.
And your friend Julie, is that Julie Nagel?
Correct.
And yourself and Julie Nagel, how long have you known each other?
Middle school, so a little bit longer than how long I've known Brian for.
And you and Miss Nagel, were you in the same grade together?
Yes.
And so her father drives you from your house, picks you up at some point, and brings you over to 34 Fairview.
Correct.
Do you know about what time it was that you arrived at 34?
Her face is sad.
Between 7 and 8 p.m.
And when you arrive, who, if anyone, besides...
And
who,
you
if
know
anyone,
what's
was
sad is, like, she's a freaking nurse. She's a first responder. She's a She's a mandated reporter, and they're putting her through this.
The house at Fairview, Mclaughlin?
It was Brian Jr., Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, and Julie Albert.
And what was, as far as your understanding, what was sort of the plan for that particular evening?
We were all going to meet at Brian's house. His family was going to go out, his mom, aunt, and sister, and then we were kind of going to go from there, whether we were going to go out or stay home. It was up in the air.
And when you arrived there, so at some point did his mother Nicole Albert, his aunt and his sister leave the house?
Correct.
How long period of time was it from the time that you and Julie arrived to the time that Brian's mother, aunt, and sister left?
15 to 25 minutes, I would say.
And did you have any idea where they were going?
No.
Now, as far as during that time after they left, what was it? Do you recall sort of where in the house you were hanging out, or what you were doing?
We were in the family room and in the kitchen as well.
In the kitchen area within the Albert house at 34 Fairview, were you familiar with that?
Hey,
Yes.
how are you, Aaron?
The kitchen and the dining room, are those sort of the same thing? Is that correct?
Correct.
And the family room that you're talking about, let me ask you.
I'm doing good.
With respect to 34 Fairview, there are basically two front doors.
So, Mr. Lally, I think we can move on from the general description of the house.
Yeah, no shit.
One last question in regards to that.
Oh, thank
So
you,
the family room that
Judge.
you're talking about, where is that in relation to the kitchen?
Jesus.
If you're looking at the house, it's to the right.
Now, what is it that at some point in time did other people join you and Julie and Brian Jr. at the house?
Between 8 and 9 o'clock.
And who was it that came over between 8 and 9?
Courtney Alba, Catherine Duty, Emily Fabiano,
That's
and
good.
Mary Kent.
I'm going to ask you to spell all of those last names for us, if you would, please.
So Courtney Alba, A-L-B-A. Catherine Duty, it's K-A-T-H-R-Y-N-D-O-O-D-Y. Emily Fabiano, the last name, F-A-B-B-I-A-N-O, I believe it might be 1B. And then Mary Kent, K-E-N-T.
Thank you.
And with respect to Ms. Alba, Ms. Duty, Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Kent, how did you know them?
I knew Catherine and Emily since elementary school. Mary and Courtney I had known since high school. Courtney I was more of an acquaintance with because she was friends with Brian.
So she was more friends with your friend, and you had sort of a mutual friend, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, during the time that you were at the house on Fairview, you mentioned earlier you were in sort of family room area. Where else did you go within the house?
Just the family room, the kitchen / dining room, and then the bathroom off the kitchen.
And just so I'm clear, so I want to imagine when I'm saying you, I'm saying you sort of plural. So you, in addition to all the other people that you just mentioned, was there any other area of the house that the group of you went to anyway?
Brian took either Mary or Catherine, I don't remember which one, upstairs at one point to see their family dog.
Can I ask you to keep your voice up, if you would, please? Thank
Sorry.
And about how long a period were they upstairs seeing them?
No more than 5-10 minutes.
And so what was it that the group of you were doing at the house over the course of this evening?
So we were celebrating Brian's birthday. They had gotten calzones, we were eating, and then we were drinking.
And in general terms, if you recall, what was the group sort of drinking that night?
God,
Like
what
spiked
does it
seltzers.
matter
I know
what they were
Brian
drinking?
was most likely drinking White Claw because that's really all he drinks. I remember one of the other girls bringing Trulies. I'm not sure about the other people, but around that type of stuff.
And do you know how much each of the people sort of had to drink while they were there?
I'm not completely sure. No one was tipping over.
Fair to say that whatever people had was sort of commensurate with each other, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, at some point, over the course of the evening, sort of eating or drinking, was there like music going or anything like that?
Yes, music.
And if you recall, like sort of how was the music being played?
Through a Bluetooth speaker.
And over the course of the evening, in addition to the people that you've just mentioned, at some point did somebody else come by the house?
Yes.
Who was that?
Colin Albert.
And did you know Colin Albert prior to that evening as well?
Yes.
And about how old was Colin around that time?
High school, like late high school.
And how was it, or how well did you know Colin Albert?
Not very well. Like I said, I'd been friends with Brian for about 8 years at that point, and I know Colin's older brother, Christopher, pretty well. He's my age. I grew up with him, known him since elementary school. So it's kind of like, we weren't friends, I wouldn't say, me and Colin, but we were cordial.
So he's a younger brother of somebody that you went to school with?
Correct.
And he was your friend Brian Albert Jr.'s cousin, correct?
Correct.
Now, with respect to Colin, do you know about what time he arrived?
I can't say for sure. Not sure.
Sometime before or after the other Miss Fabiano, Miss Alba, and Miss Judy arrived?
He was there when Miss Fabiano, Kent, and he was there when Miss Judy, Miss Fabiano, and Miss Kent were there. I'm not sure if Miss Alba was still there because she left separately from those three.
And you mentioned that you had come over to the house getting a ride from Miss Nagel's father, correct?
Correct.
Do you know how the other women got over to the house as far as Miss Kent, Miss Fabiano, Miss Alba, and Miss Judy?
They got dropped off. I'm not sure by who.
So fair to say there weren't like a line of cars out in front of the house, right?
Correct.
And about how long, with respect to that group that was there as far as you and the other young women, about how long a period of time were you all at the house?
2 to 3 hours.
What?
So do you know about what time it was that Miss Alba, Fabiano, Miss Judy, and Miss Kent left?
Miss Alba left before the other three. Her boyfriend picked her up, and then Miss Kent, Miss Judy, and Miss Fabiano all left together. I know it was before midnight.
And when they left, was Colin Albert, was he still there?
I believe so.
And you know how much time or overlap there was between Colin Albert and the other women as far as Miss Kent, Miss Fabiano, and Miss Judy?
I don't remember exactly.
Now, from your recollection of that evening, how would you describe sort of the mood or the demeanor within the house over the course of those few hours?
Everything was good, happy. We were celebrating. No issues.
No issues with anybody that was in?
No.
Now, after, at some point in time, later on in the evening or in the early morning of the 29th, who, if anyone else, came by?
So Mr. Albert, Brian's father, Mr. Higgins, Mrs. Albert, Brian's mother, Caitlin Albert, Brian's sister, Jennifer McCabe, Brian's aunt, and then Matt McCabe, Brian's uncle.
Listening intently.
Let me sort of break down and ask you a bit about that. So as far as the order of people arriving, at some point did you learn where they were coming from?
Yes.
Where were they coming from?
I'm not
Brian's father and Mr. Higgins, as far as I knew, were coming from New York. They were at a funeral for a fallen police officer. And Brian's other family members, aunt, uncle, mother, and sister, they were out in Canton. I wasn't sure what establishment.
And so those people that you described, did they all come at the same time, or did they come in sort of staggered fashion, or how did they arrive?
Brian's father and Mr. Higgins arrived first, but they all arrived within 5 minutes of each other.
Down, kitty.
And first, in reference to Brian's father, Brian Sr., who had obviously met him on prior occasions, correct?
Correct.
And Brian Higgins, is that someone that you had met before, or you had known prior to that evening?
No.
And when Mr. Albert, being Sr., and Mr. Higgins arrived at the residence on Fairview, was Colin Albert still there?
I don't remember.
Do you have any recollection of those people being in the same room at the same time on that?
I don't remember.
And so, as far as Brian Jr., your friend, his mother's name is Nicole, was that right?
Correct.
His sister's name is Caitlin?
Correct.
Did you know both of them prior to the evening of the 28th?
Yes.
And with respect to Caitlin, how would you describe your sort of relationship with her?
We were friends in high school.
Fair to say that you were close with Brian Jr. versus Kate, correct?
Correct.
And same question in regard to Colin Albert. Do you recall whether or not he was there in the house at the time that Nicole and Caitlin came?
I don't remember.
And then as far as Jennifer and Matthew McCabe, were you familiar with them prior to the evening of the 28th?
I knew who they were. I'm not sure if I've ever had a conversation with them prior to that.
When you say you knew who they were, how was it that you knew who they were?
I knew they were Brian's aunt and uncle.
Had you ever met them before or had an occasion to see them anywhere before that you can recall?
I know I had seen or met Jen before. I'm not sure about Matt.
And same question in reference to, as far as Colin Albert, do you recall whether or not he was in the house at any point in time when the McCabe was?
I don't remember.
It's going to be a pretty straightforward cross because
yes,
she doesn't know
You
shit.
don't recall when it was in relation to when the other people arrived from wherever they were?
No.
And do you recall how it was that he left?
He got a ride.
And then they come
No, he
back.
got a ride from. Objection.
Oh, do you know?
No.
Okay, next question.
Now, when these other people came to the house, we'll refer to them as the older adults, is that a fair portrayal of them?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Other than the rest of the people that were there earlier, then, correct?
Correct.
So that group that came in later, as far as when they arrived, where were they in relation to the house? Like, where were they situated?
We were all in the dining/kitchen.
So all in that same sort of area.
Correct.
Now, at any point in time over the course of the evening, do you recall anybody from that group of people sort of going anywhere else in the house that you saw?
Not that I remember.
And with respect to the house on Fairview Road, you're familiar with where the basement is located in the house, is that correct?
Yes.
And at any point in time in the evening, did you see anybody from that group, either before or after, go anywhere near the basement or go into the basement area?
No.
Now, with respect to the sort of mood and demeanor after these other folks come by, do you know about what time it was that those people started coming back in from wherever they were coming?
12:15. It wasn't that long after it struck midnight.
So sometime after the strike of midnight, these other folks start to come back to the house.
Correct.
And from that period, from 12:15 or so, from that period, about how long was it after that you were at the house on Fairview?
I left between 1:30 and 2 a.m.
So about an hour and a half or so after they got there.
Correct.
Now, with respect to that hour and a half or so after they got there, how would you describe sort of the mood and the demeanor within the home during that time?
Same thing. We were celebrating, happy, dancing, all that.
The drinking continued, correct?
Correct.
No issues or arguments or anything that you would say, correct?
Correct.
Now, within the area of the kitchen dining area, at some point, do you recall where people were? I'm talking later in the evening when the folks come back to the house after midnight. Do you remember where those people were sort of situated around the kitchen dining room area at that time?
Yes.
And could you describe to the jury sort of where they were?
So the dining room table is a square. So, and it was in front of the front window. So in front of the front window where their back would be to the window was my friend Julie Nagel. I was sitting then, I don't know, was that perpendicular? I haven't taken math in a long time. I was sitting here. If the window's here, I was sitting on this side, facing kind of, I could see the front door. And then to my right, Brian Sr. and Mr. Higgins were standing. So they're back towards the kitchen. And Mrs. Albert Nicole was sitting with her back to the front door area. And Jen and Matt and Caitlin, I don't believe were sitting.
And over that course of hour and a half or so after those folks came back to the house sometime after midnight, did you observe any other people walking?
That's
coming
a
into the
lot
house
to
at any point?
remember of
No.
where people are sitting.
Let me ask you this: as far as on January 28th into the 29th of 2022, did you know anybody by the
That'd
name
be
of
like the least thing
No.
I could remember.
And did you know anybody by the name of Karen?
No.
And with respect to either of those people or any other people, no one else came into the house while you were there.
Correct.
Now, at some point in time, your friend Julie, did she go outside the house?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what that was in regard to?
Her older brother, Ryan, was coming to pick us up to take us home. So she went out to talk to him. Prior to him arriving, she said something to me along the lines of Ryan's coming to get us, which Jen McCabe said.
Question.
And so in relation to when folks arrived back from wherever they were coming from to 34 Fairview, when was this that you had this conversation with Julie about her brother coming to pick us up?
Around 12:30, give or take.
And at some point, did Julie go outside the house?
Yes.
And did you have any occasion to look outside at any point when she was out there?
No.
And about how long period of time was Julie outside the house?
No longer than 5 minutes.
And after that, her going outside no longer than 5 minutes and coming back inside, were there other arrangements that were made as far as how you and Julie were going to get home that night?
Yes.
And what were those arrangements as far as what was your understanding of how you were getting home that night?
Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe would drive us home.
Now, Jen McCabe, around that time that Julie went outside of the house and came back in, what, if anything, did you observe her to do?
Her phone was plugged in behind me, charging. She was checking it periodically.
And again, if you could remind the jury, so what was it that was behind you as far as where was she?
So where I was sitting behind me was a wall. And then behind that wall would be the family room.
And so I guess what I'm asking is, was there something specific that her phone was like resting on, or was it just sort of hanging out of the plug, or how was it positioned?
I think it was just resting on the floor.
And with reference to her phone, was that something that Ms. McCabe came over and looked at any point in time while it was charging?
Yes.
How many times?
I'm not sure to be exact.
Let me ask you this: was it once or more than once?
Or not sure.
More than once, I would say.
And without any reference to anything that was said, was there some conversation that you had with Ms. McCabe during the time she would come over and check over the phone?
Myself, no. In general, I remember her saying someone was coming.
And And that someone that she indicated was coming, again, no one ever actually came in the house or was around the house that you were aware of, correct?
Correct.
And so about what time was it that you left the home on Fairview on that particular evening?
Between 1:30 and 2 a.m.
Her testimony doesn't offer any
Nagel as well as
insight
Mrs.
either.
McCabe, correct?
Correct.
And do you
Like
recall,
she's
what
saying
kind
the
of
same
vehicle they
damn
had or
thing.
What they were driving on that evening?
Some sort of like large Subaru type. I don't know the exact make or brand, but a large. All I could say was like a Subaru, not a Subaru, not a Suburban. I don't know cars. Like a Tahoe, like a big car.
So like a bigger SUV, correct?
Yes.
And within the SUV that you eventually got into and took a ride home, correct?
Yes.
And if you recall, from within the SUV that you got into, was there, as far as the backseat was concerned, was it 2 rows, 3 rows, or something?
It was 3 rows
And where was that vehicle parked when you came out to get into it?
in the driveway.
And when you came out to go from the house to the car, what, if anything, did you observe as far as what was the weather doing that?
It was snowing.
And as far as the snow that had come, was there any sort of accumulation on the ground that you saw?
Yes.
And so based on that, what, if anything, do you recall about sort of your walk from the front door to the McCabe's vehicle in the driveway?
So we exited the front door and went down the front walkway to the driveway. As I said, it was snowing. Julie and I were like arms linked, and I was looking down at my feet to make sure I didn't slip.
And why were you looking down at your feet?
I wore shoes that my mother told me not to wear because they didn't have traction, but they went with my outfit, so I wore them anyways. And I knew if I had slipped and fell, she would say, "I told you so." So I made sure not to do that.
And
What does it matter what shoes
get
she
to the
was
vehicle,
wearing?
do you
Jesus,
recall sort of
Criminy.
who was driving and who sort of sat where within the vehicle?
Yes. So Matt was driving. Jennifer was in the passenger seat. Julie was behind Matt on the driver's side, and then I was behind Jen.
And when you get into the back of the vehicle, do you recall, was there any sort of conversation about, did either Mr. or Mrs. McCabe know where the two of you lived at that point? No?
They did not.
So I imagine there was some discussion as far as where to or what was the address or something like that.
Yes, correct.
Do you recall if that was something that was like plugged into GPS, or were you just sort of giving verbal instructions about where to go?
I don't remember.
And do you recall as far as the order of who got dropped off first versus yourself and Ms. Nagel?
Yes.
And who got dropped off?
Julie.
And about how far a drive is it from the address on Fairview to Julie's house?
Less than 5 minutes.
And same as far as, so from Julie's house, you then went to your house, is that correct?
Yeah, about 5 minutes, I would say, from Julie's to mine.
So 5 minutes or so from Fairview to Julie's and 5 minutes or so from Julie's.
Correct.
Now, when you get in the back of the vehicle, do you recall any other sort of discussion while you were in the driveway before you left?
So yes, we got in to the car. Matt forgot his jacket inside, so he went back to get his jacket. And Julie and I were in the back seat looking around. One of us noticed, I remember, a loaf of bread, just a lone loaf of bread in the back seat. We said something to Jen because we thought it was weird. And she said something along the lines of, "Oh, anyone want a peanut butter and jelly on the way?" Like making a joke. So we were looking back at the third row.
And so Ms. McCabe is in the front seat of the vehicle at this point?
Yes.
So she sort of turned to talk to you while you're in the back seat?
Correct.
And was she turned towards the center of the car or the window or something else?
To the center.
And if you recall, Mr. McCabe gets his jacket, comes back in the car, and at some point backs out of the driveway.
Correct.
And when Mr. McCabe drives from there headed towards Ms. Nagel's house, do you recall which direction that
There's going to be another Julie to hit the stand.
The house on Fairview?
And she is not.
So
she's the only one that says that she's
Okay.
seen somebody on the lawn or something.
34
A
Fairview Road
blonde
residence
on the lawn.
on the way to Julie's house.
Yes.
And when you did so, which side of the McCabe's vehicle was facing the Fairview Road residence? Was it the side that you're on,
So
or the side that you
yes.
The side I was on.
And at the time that you were driving past that, was there a conversation still that was going on in the backseat of the car or with anybody else?
Yes.
And who was sort of engaged in conversation with that?
Myself and Julie.
And so you're looking at her direction while you're talking to her, is that correct?
Correct.
And as you're driving past the house, what, if anything, does Julie say?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Rowley.
As you're driving past the house, what, if any, conversation were you having with that?
Objection.
So I'm going to see Councilor Tybar on this one issue. Jurors, feel free to stand up.
What is the issue? What is the fucking issue? Do we need a tissue for this issue? Let's see. Are we gonna come back?
Ms. Levenson, without respect to what Ms. Nagel said to you in the car, the two of you were conversing, correct?
Correct.
And as you're pulling past the house, she says something, correct? Or says something out loud.
Farther up the street.
And so when you're talking about farther up the street, where was the vehicle in relation to the house at 34 Fairview when she says something?
The house was behind us.
And so based on what she had said, where does your attention go?
When she was speaking to me, I looked at her. Once she said what she said, I looked the other way to the window.
And at the time that you looked to the window, what was sort of outside the window in reference to 34 Fairview? Was any part of the residence?
Is this a concocted fucking story?
At that time?
No.
And so was a neighboring house, is that fair to say?
One of the neighboring houses, yes.
So whether it was next door neighbor or a couple houses down, it was past that point, right?
Correct.
And was there any further discussion that you recall in the backseat of the vehicle between yourself and Julie in relation to that earlier statement?
I asked for clarification.
Did you receive any further clarification?
No.
Can I have a moment, John?
Yes.
Nobody else remembers her saying, look up. Because I think that's a lie. The defense is going to get in your ass about it, too. The defense is going to get in your ass about it, too. Don't take company. Fabricate.
Right, so this is a good place for us to take our morning recess. See folks about the meeting.
No, it's not.
All right, to the court,
We're
please.
gonna go right on in.
You are
ma'am. We're going to go rest in, ma'am.
Thank you. See you back then.
All right, let's bring Ms. Levenson in, please.
Get over there. Yeah, rip it. Because this is
Right, Mr.
my
Netti.
Thank you, Norm. Good morning.
Good morning.
Get out of
You
here,
have lived in
Nettie.
Canton your whole life?
Correct.
Graduated from Canton High School?
Yes.
Have been friends with Brian Albert Jr. since high school?
Yes.
I believe you said it's been probably about 10 years now that you've been friends?
Correct.
And the two of you actually went to the junior prom together, correct?
Correct.
Oh,
Consider him a close
cute.
friend.
Correct.
You've been to his house many times?
Yes.
You've gone inside the home and you've spent time in the backyard as well?
Yes.
He
You've
went
gone
to
swimming in the
junior
pool
prom
that they had in the
together.
backyard?
Yes.
And in high school, you would hang out in their basement, would you not?
That's correct.
And you know that there's, in that basement, a bulkhead door that leads to the backyard, correct?
I never noticed it.
You're also on good terms with other members of the Albert family.
Correct.
You know his brothers and sisters, correct?
Correct.
Caitlin Albert, Brendan Albert, Kayla Albert, and Jack Albert.
Yes.
You also know his cousins?
Depends which ones, but yes.
Some of them.
Yes.
You know that Jennifer McCabe's daughters are Brian Albert Jr.'s cousins, correct?
Correct.
And you know both of Brian Jr.'s parents, Brian Albert Sr. and Nicole Albert, correct?
That's correct.
And you actually call Nicole Albert by her nickname, correct?
Sometimes, yes.
And what is that nickname?
Coco?
And you know Brian Albert Sr. relatively well, having been over the house so many times, correct?
Depends what you qualify as well, but yes.
You find him a little standoffish.
He's quiet.
But in any case, you're comfortable at the Albert home.
That's correct.
And you were at the Albert home on the night of January 28th, going into the 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Got there around 8 p.m.
Correct.
And you didn't leave until around 2 a.m., give or take, on the 29th, correct?
Correct.
So again, ballpark figures, if you were there from 8 p.m. until 2 a.m., that means that you spent about 6 hours at the Albert home that night into the early morning.
Correct.
And you yourself never left the home during those 6 hours, correct?
Correct.
You were inside the home the entire time.
Correct.
Were you interviewed by any police officer, state trooper, or other investigator about the event of that night?
Nope.
On January 29th of 2022?
On that day?
Yeah. Were you interviewed?
No.
What about the rest of January or even February of 2022? Were you interviewed by any investigator?
Nope.
No.
The fact of the matter is that no investigator connected with this case took a statement from you in terms of an interview until about 9 months later, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely.
And that was done at the district
disgusting.
attorney's office on October 21st of 2022?
Correct.
Now, that night while you were at the house, you'll agree with me that there were people coming and going from the house the whole night, correct?
I mean, you would have to be more specific.
Okay, so I'm not talking about like every minute on the minute,
Mhm.
but during those 6 hours, you saw people come and you saw people leave, correct?
Yes.
But you were not standing guard at the door to take note of everyone who was entering or leaving or the times that they were entering or leaving, correct?
Correct.
You were not keeping a log, for instance, of when somebody came in or when somebody left.
No.
No.
And when you got there around 8 a.m., you came with your good friend Julie Nagel, correct?
Yes.
Julie's father dropped you off there.
Yes.
You saw Nicole Albert, Julie Albert, Caitlin Albert, and Brian Albert Jr. when you arrived, right?
Correct.
Then Julie Albert, Caitlin Albert, and Nicole Albert left, right?
Yes.
But then 4 other friends of Brian Jr. arrived, right?
Yes.
And you would name them when Mr. Lally was asking you questions before the break,
That's
right?
me.
Yes, correct.
So with those 4 friends, with you and Julie and Brian Jr., that meant that at that point,
Yeah.
there were 7 people in the house,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Actually, there were
Yeah.
8 people because Colin Albert was there as well, correct?
It depends on what time you're referring to, but yes.
He got dropped off there at some point.
Yes.
And then he was one of the 8 people, including yourself, that you were with.
Correct.
You never saw him walk in the door, did you?
I don't remember.
You don't remember seeing him actually enter the house, correct?
Correct.
But during the night, you actually sat right next to Colin Albert at the table, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And with regard to Colin Albert, I believe you testified, you really wouldn't say he's a friend of yours, right?
That's correct.
He was more of an acquaintance, was he not?
That's correct.
Somebody that you met, but you didn't hang around with, right?
Yes.
You have never been in a hot tub with Colin Albert, correct?
Not that I know of, no.
Never took a trip to Maine with Colin Albert, right?
Objection.
No.
Oh,
Going away on a road trip, that'd be
shit.
something that
That's
you
what
would
an
find, right?
acquaintance
Objection.
looks like. That's what an acquaintance looks like. Yes.
Okay. And with regard to those 4 friends of Brian Jr. who arrived,
Sit down.
your best estimate is that they came sometime between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m., right?
He
Sorry,
tried
can you
it.
repeat that?
Sure. I'm talking about
He
Courtney
always
Albert,
try
Catherine
it.
Judy,
I
Emily
love it.
Fabiano, and Mary Kent. Strike that. You know what? Let me withdraw that question and rephrase it. They left sometime between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m.
Correct.
And you can't be sure precisely when they left because, again, you weren't watching the clock to make note of when people made their exits, correct?
I know they left before it was Brian Jr.'s birthday on the 29th, so I know it was before midnight, but other than that, no.
Right. And that's like an hour span of time that they could have left within, correct?
Correct.
You never saw Colin Albert physically walk out the door, did you?
I don't remember.
And then at some point before midnight, Brian Albert Sr., Brian Higgins, Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe, and Caitlin Albert all arrived at the Albert home, correct?
Yes, I don't know if you said Matt McCabe, but
And
yes.
Matt McCabe as well.
Yes.
And you would agree with me that Brian Higgins and Brian Albert arrived at about the same time?
Yes.
And that Caitlin, Albert, Jennifer, and Matt McCabe, and Nicole Albert all came back around the same time?
Correct.
Now, from that point until the time that you left around, and that was around 2 a.m., right? Give or take?
Correct.
From that point until around 2 a.m., the only person who left the house was your friend Julie Nick, right?
Correct.
Your understanding was that she went outside to talk to her brother Ryan Nick, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And in addition to not remembering seeing Colin Albert leave, you also did not see Brian Higgins physically leave, correct?
I don't remember.
And you also don't remember seeing Caitlin Albert leave, correct?
No, I don't remember.
You would agree with me that throughout the night while you were at the house, Caitlin Albert was playing music on her phone?
Yes.
There were surround sound speakers set up in the kitchen dining room area?
I don't remember that.
There were speakers though, correct?
Possibly.
So
I don't remember.
Your memory is not that Caitlin Albert had a song or songs playing on her small iPhone, was it?
No, it was on a speaker. I'm just not sure if it was surround sound or a Bluetooth speaker like it was previously in the night.
All right, fair enough. People were singing and dancing, right?
Correct.
Pretty much everybody was singing, correct?
Correct.
People were talking.
Correct.
Everybody appeared to be in a good mood and having a good time.
Yes.
And with the music, the singing, the dancing, the talking, the drinking, there was a lot of activity going on in the kitchen dining room area, correct?
Yes.
There was plenty of, to pay attention to with regard to the people that were in that area, right?
Yes.
Brian Jr. was in the kitchen essentially the whole night.
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe was charging her phone on the kitchen island at one point.
Behind it, but yes.
Did she pick up her phone in your presence to make any calls or text anybody?
She picked up her phone. I'm not sure what she did with it.
But in any case, you'd agree with me it was noisy in the kitchen.
Yes.
And the kitchen's in the back of the house.
Yes.
Now, you had seen the Albert family dog, the German Shepherd, Chloe, prior to that day, correct?
Yes.
And Chloe was not a very outgoing dog around people, correct?
Correct.
In fact, your impression was that she was a former police dog, correct?
Possibly.
Right or wrong?
Maybe. I don't know.
While you were in the kitchen, with all of the singing and dancing and talking and music going on, you did not hear Chloe bark, correct?
Correct.
You did not hear Chloe growl, correct?
Correct. Not that I remember.
You did not hear somebody get hit in the back of the head with anything, correct?
Objection.
Correct.
And while you were there sitting, you could not hear what, if anything, was going on in the basement, correct?
Objection.
Nope.
Okay.
Not
You were
with
catching a
everything
ride
going
home
on.
with the McCabe's ultimately, correct?
Correct.
At that time, you believed that you, Julie Nagel, Jennifer McCabe, and Matt McCabe were the last to leave 34 Fairview?
Correct.
So at that time, you believed that Brian Higgins and Caitlin Albert had left before you, correct?
I'll be in chat.
I believe so.
But you didn't see Brian Higgins or Caitlin Albert physically walk out the door. At least you have no memory of that, correct?
Correct.
And when you left, you didn't check every room in the house to see who was still there, correct?
Correct.
You never went down to the basement that night.
That's correct.
And when you left 34 Fairview, the snow was starting to stick to the ground at around 2 a.m.,
That's correct.
but there weren't mounds of snow or snowbanks that had formed, correct?
Correct.
And when you left the home, you could still see part of the red brick of the walkway that leads to the driveway, correct?
Correct.
And when you got to the driveway, you could still see part of the color of the pavement, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you could still see some grass on the front lawn at 2 a.m., right?
I don't remember, but
Let me have a moment.
Yes.
You testified at a hearing on May 11th of 2023, so just about a year ago, in Boston, correct?
correct.
And neither the prosecution in this case, Mr. Lally and Ms. McLaughlin, or any of the defense team was there, correct?
Correct.
Some other lawyer was asking you questions, right?
Objection.
Sustain, move along with this.
Sure. You were asked the question, quote, could you see the grass sort of on the lawn? That was when you were leaving. And your answer was yes. Do you recall that question and answer?
I don't recall that.
If I suggested to you that that was the question and answer, would you dispute it?
Objection.
Sustain.
Is your memory exhausted as to whether there was that question of you and that answer given?
Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Do you not remember whether you were asked that question that I just read and the answer that you just gave?
I don't remember.
If you saw that transcript, would that refresh your memory?
Possibly.
Page 187, counsel. May I approach?
Was there an objection? No? Yes, you did.
Thank you. Actually, I'm sorry. I just handed it to you and then took it away. I'm sorry about that. Lines 10 and 11, I would direct your attention. And just read it silently to yourself, please, and look up at me when you're done. I may approach to grab that. Having reviewed that transcript, does that refresh your memory as to what you testified to a year ago?
Yes.
And was that accurate?
Yes. With the word being sort of.
Yeah, well, I believe I read the
Yes.
question.
I'm just clarifying. Yeah.
But I did read it accurately. right?
Correct.
Okay. Where was the McCabe's car parked?
In the driveway.
What other cars did you see in the driveway at that time?
I believe the Albert, by Albert family, I mean the ones that owned that house.
The parents.
Yes, correct. Their cars.
Do you know how many?
2.
And where were those 2 cars parked? Strike that. Were there 2 lanes in the driveway where cars were parked?
Yes.
And which lane, to the left or the right, were the Albert cars? Or maybe they were in both.
I believe both,
Both.
closest to the garage.
Okay, so they were pulled up closest to the entrance of the garage.
Correct.
In tandem, right next to each other.
Correct.
All right. And where was the McCabe's car behind? Which car?
If you're looking at the house, the lane to the left, I believe.
Okay. Now, when you first walked out of the Albert home, you'd agree with me that the front lawn was right in front of you, correct?
Yes.
There were no obstructions blocking your view of that front lawn.
No.
And there were lights on next to the Albert home front lawn, correct?
Correct.
And there was also a lamppost where the front walkway is, correct?
Correct.
And between the 2 garage doors, there's also a spotlight, is there not?
Correct.
And you would testify that snow had started to accumulate, right?
Correct.
And against that white snow, did you see a black baseball cap?
No.
Did you see a black sneaker?
No.
Did you see a 6'2", 220-pound man sprawled out right in front of you on that lawn?
No.
Did you see 45 pieces of red plastic?
No.
1 piece of red plastic?
No.
So you saw nothing unusual on that front lawn as you walked out of that house, correct?
That's correct.
As Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Julie Nagel were walking toward the McCabe car, none of them pointed to the front lawn to direct your attention to anything, correct?
That's correct.
In fact, you would testify that Matt McCabe forgot something and had to go back in the house, correct?
Correct.
Which means he actually came out of the house twice that night, correct?
Correct.
And the second time he came out, he still would have been facing that front lawn, correct?
Correct.
And the second time that Matt McCabe came out, he didn't point at anything in the front lawn, correct?
That's correct.
And then the 4 of you were in the McCabe car, right?
Yes.
Matt McCabe was driving.
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe was in the front passenger seat next to him.
Yes.
Julie Nagel was seated behind the driver, behind Matt McCabe, right?
Yes.
And you were seated in the second row passenger seat to the right,
Yes.
behind where Jennifer McCabe was sitting.
Yes.
And the car backed out of the driveway, correct?
Yep.
And the rear of the car was then facing towards Cedar Crest.
Correct.
And the front of the car, where you were going to drive toward, would be toward Chapman Street, correct?
That's correct.
Which would have put you driving right past the Albert property line, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you were closer to that property line than Julie Nagel was, correct?
That's correct.
As you drove past?
Yes.
And as you drove past that front lawn, you saw nothing out of the ordinary, right?
I wasn't looking, but yes.
Okay. And we had previously talked about the fact that you were first interviewed by investigators on October 21st of 2022, right?
Correct.
And the investigator that spoke to you about 9 months after January 29th of 2022, you will agree with me, was Michael Proctor, correct?
That's correct.
And almost a year after that, you were visited by 2 female members of the defense team, were you not?
Objection.
My home was.
Do you recognize Ms. Little seated at council table as being one of those 2 females?
Okay, I'm going to see it second.
Is it fair to say, Ms. Levenson, that you decided not to speak to anybody from the defense team?
That is correct.
And you hadn't before you and I just started this discussion, correct?
That is correct.
Nothing further, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Ms. Levenson, with regard to the basement at 34 Fairview, when was the last time that you were in the basement area of the home?
Early college. So 2017, maybe?
That period of time that you were talking about where Ms. McCabe had her phone on the charger and was coming over to check on it, do you recall whether or not Colin Albert was still in the house at that point?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe he was, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, you come out of the house, you were asking questions about the lawn. The portion of the front lawn that you are talking about, as far as you observed, where is that in relation to the driveway?
To the, well, if you're,
Let me ask you a different way. So as far as with respect to the front lawn area of the home, what part of the lawn did you make any observations of, or did you look at or see it when you were walking from the doorway to the vehicle?
when I walked out of the front door, I went down the steps of the stoop and I looked in front of me, like down, not straight. So it would be the grass that borders the front walkway.
So you weren't looking at sort of the entirety of the front lawn, is that correct?
That is correct.
And when you spoke with Trooper Proctor, was he the only trooper there, or the only state police officer there when you spoke with him?
No.
Do you recall who the other trooper was?
I don't remember the name specifically. It was not like a common last name, though. I know that.
And as far as defense investigators or anybody else coming to your house, you chose not to speak with them, is that correct?
Correct. I was not home when what Mr. Iernetti was talking about. My parents were home, but out of respect, I contacted the defense to tell them the next day, I believe, that I had nothing to have a conversation with them about.
Why not?
I know that legally I didn't have to, and I didn't have anything to say.
Nothing further.
All right, you are all set, Ms. Levenson.
Okay, thank you.
Your next witness, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor. Call Ms. Julie Nagel to the stand.
Step for me. Thank you. Main stand, please. Here's right here. This is officer of the undershirt of the court and jury in the case down here. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Kevin, where are you? Here's the Julie.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am.
How you doing?
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Yep, it's Juliana Nagel, Nagel,
And where do you live, ma'am?
Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
My whole life.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Canton?
I live with my parents and my brothers, but mostly now just my parents.
And how many brothers do you have?
I have two older brothers.
And what are their names and how much older than you are they?
My oldest brother Ryan is 31, and then my other brother Sam is 27.
And
Don't talk
do
about.
you work at?
I do. I work for a car rental agency.
How long have you been doing
A little over a year and a half.
that? Now, ma'am, if I could put your attention to January 28th, 2022 into the early morning of 29th. Do you recall where you were that evening?
I do.
And where did you go?
To my friend Brian Albert's house.
And your friend, that's Brian Albert Jr., is that correct?
Yes, Junior, yep.
And how is it that you know Brian Albert?
We went to school together, high school. So I've known him for quite some time.
And with Brian Albert Jr., was he in the same grade or the same class as you?
He was a year below me.
And you recall about what time it was that you went over to his house the evening of the 28th?
I'm not sure exactly, but I would say probably around like 6.
And do you recall what day of the week that was, the 28th and the 29th?
I believe a Friday.
The Friday and Saturday, is that correct?
Mhm.
I think she's
Yes.
How did you get to Mr. Albert Jr.'s house then?
My dad drove me.
Her
Who
burly,
anyone else did your dad?
her burly tone of voice is the only thing that may fuck me up.
Ride along with?
My friend Sarah Levenson.
How long have you known Sarah Levenson?
Since middle school, I would say.
And you're familiar with Mr. Albert Jr.'s house at 34 Fairview Road?
Correct, yes.
And have you been there on occasion over the course of your friendship?
Yes.
I wish I could fucking.
Now, what was,
no more because
as far as your understanding, what was sort of the plan for that evening?
Just hang out, have some drinks for my friend Brian's birthday. Just together and hang out.
3.
And when you arrived there, who, if anyone, in addition to yourself, Ms. Levenson and Brian Albert Jr., were present at home death?
From what I can recall, I just remember Brian Jr. Yep.
And at some point, did some other people come and join the group of the three of you at the home?
Yes.
And when about was that in relation to when you and Sarah left?
I can't remember. I don't recall the time frame.
Okay.
Sometime after that?
Yes. Yep.
Was it that came to join the group at some point?
It was me, Brian Jr., Sarah Levenson, Catherine Gigi, Emily Fabiano, Mary Kent, Courtney Alba, Colin Albert, and then that's what I can remember from then in the early part of the night.
To Ms. Fabiano, and was Ms. Duty as well, is that correct?
Correct.
How did you know them?
Through Brian Jr. Yep.
Oh, they puts up her brothers, man.
In Brian's class.
Class below you?
Correct. Yep.
Baby.
And so fair to say that you were closer friends with Brian Albert Jr., Ms. Levenson, and the other 4 girls that came with you?
Correct. Yes.
You mentioned, as far as those 4 individuals, Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Kent, Ms. Duty, and
Huh? What you talking
Ms.
about,
Fabiano, Ms.
Lolly?
Duty, and Ms. Alba, did they come together as far as you know?
I don't remember. I'm not sure.
And do you have any idea how they got there?
No, I do not.
Now, with
She
reference
don't know
to,
shit.
correct?
All she knows is
And that means they have to be yes or no.
Okay, got
in
it.
the middle of the road.
So what was that answer?
Do you mind repeating the question? Thank you.
So with reference to Colin Albert,
And
did
she
you know
didn't
Colin
tell
Albert?
nobody till like
Yes.
a week before.
Through Brian Jr.
It's trial.
If anything, do you know about the relationship between Colin Albert and Brian Albert?
They're cousins.
And about how old was Colin Albert around this time frame?
Can we
of January 2020?
get past like the cousins?
I'm
and all
not
this
quite sure. I
other dumb
don't
shit?
know.
You know, whether or
Like,
not
Wally, you
were
asked
college
it
now?
like
high
most
school.
mundane bullshit.
And when was it that he arrived in relation to four young ladies
Mundane
that you
fucking
talked
questions.
I don't remember. A little bit after though.
about? Okay, so at some point in time after.
I don't remember.
And they arrived
I
after.
don't
you, is that
even know
correct?
what
Correct, yep.
testing dude. Just
And over the course of the evening within the Albert house, where is it sort of within the home that you and sort of the group were talking?
We were mostly in the dining room area,
I wanna go
with
to
the kitchen, so I can open floor plan a little bit.
And do you recall what specifically, or just generally speaking, what you were doing while you were hanging out and celebrating Brian Jr.'s birthday?
We got some food ordered from Deanie. Just hanging out, drinking. That's mostly, that was it.
Do you recall any music playing or anything like that?
Yes.
How was that sort of set up? Or what was it?
Yeah, I can mostly remember it being set up from the overhead speakers in like in the kitchen, like in the ceiling.
And was that being played through somebody else's like phone or device or something like that?
Yes.
And do you recall who was sort of in control or who was controlling the music?
I believe it was Caitlin Albert.
And so prior to, at this point in time that you're talking about, sort of the initial was Caitlin there at that point?
Yes, she was.
I'm sorry, during the point in time when it was yourself and Ms. Levenson, the other 4 young women that you were talking about, Colin Albert, was Ms. Caitlin Albert there at that point, if you recall?
Not at that point, no.
So that's what my question was
Okay.
in relation to that time, who, if anyone, was.
Well, you asked
Okay.
them questions.
No, not at that time. I don't
Wally.
remember.
Now, with respect to, obviously you were there and you were drinking, people were drinking, correct?
Yep.
Do you recall sort of what people were drinking?
I know at the time I was drinking Michelob Ultras, but mostly just White Claws, beers, from what I can remember.
And was anyone within this sort of initial group that we're talking about here drinking any more or less than anybody else?
I don't believe so, no.
And during this sort of initial period with these initial people, how would you describe sort of the mood of the community with them?
Yeah, everyone was having a good time. It was Brian's birthday, so, we were there just to have fun.
And at any point in time with this sort of initial group, did you see anybody go to any other area of the house beyond sort of the kitchen and dining room area? Now, at some point, did members of this sort of initial group, did they leave the house at some point over the course of the evening?
Yes.
And who left first? And
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly who left at what point, but I know that Catherine, Duty, Emily Fabiano, Mary, Ken, and Courtney Alba left.
If you don't
I would say,
know, hey, if you don't know who left,
and Colin
at what
left like
point,
before midnight.
then why are you
did they all leave
saying
around
you
the same
do?
time, or did they leave at sort of staggered?
You
I would say staggered times.
contradicted yourself, yo.
Now, with
weirdo.
reference to Colin Albert, do you know about what time he left?
I would probably say 11:30, 11:45.
And do you have any idea sort of how Colin, similar to what I asked about the other,
Do you not know what time
do you have
it
any
is,
recollection as far as how he
girl?
got there or how he left or anything like that?
I'm not quite sure. No.
Hey, you saying he left at 11:30, 11:45, dude, is the wrong time. Because he was supposed to leave around 12:10, 12:20. You know, before John O'Keefe got there. Not like an hour before. It was supposed to be right before. So you fucked up the timeline, dude. Okay.
But do you recall specifically seeing him leave from the house?
Yes.
And which door would he have left?
I'm not sure exactly what door, but I know someone did pick him up, but I'm not sure who did. So.
And so when it comes to the front door of Fairview Road, there's two doors in the front area of the house.
Yes.
And as far as with respect to either of those two doors, you don't remember him leaving from some other door of the house, correct?
Correct.
So if he left, when he left, it would have been from one of those two front doors?
Yes.
Now, at some point, at least after Miss Fabiano, Miss Duty, and Miss Alba left, did people that lived at the house or other people sort of come back to the house?
Yes.
About what time is it?
I'm not too sure, but I would say a little after midnight.
And who were the first people sort of to arrive in this? We'll call them sort of second.
I don't remember who came, like who was first, who was second, like that, but I know who came, but I don't know what order.
And who were the people that came?
Yeah, so it was Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, Brian Jr.'s parents, Matt McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, Brian Higgins, and that's it. And Caitlin Albert, sorry.
Okay. And so when they came back, as far as the other four women that you were talking about, they had already left, is that correct?
Yes.
And Colin Albert, was he still there when those people came back?
He left as well.
And so Brian Albert Sr. and Cole Albert, those Brian Albert Jr.'s parents?
Correct, yes.
You were familiar with them prior to January 28th?
Yes.
And you mentioned Jennifer and Matt McCabe, is that correct?
Yes.
No, I'm talking about, homie.
Yes.
Hey.
How are you familiar with them?
I'm through Brian Jr., just hanging out with them a few times, so just know them through the family.
And so, well, my next question is, what if any
You
relationship
just
did they
got on
have
the
to
bed. Now
Brian
you
Albert
went
Jr.?
down already?
They are his aunt and uncle.
And then with respect to Brian Higgins, is that someone that
Hey,
you knew prior to January 28th?
I did not know.
You met the first time that night at the Fairview?
Correct, yes.
And when they came into the house, this sort of second group, where was it that they went and sort of congregated around the house?
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the family area, the floor plan, which is the kitchen and the dining room area. Yeah.
And at any point in time, well, let me ask you this, they come sometime shortly around or after midnight, is that fair to say?
Yes.
About how long after they arrived, or about what time was it that you left the house for the evening?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
At some point you went home that night?
Yes.
What time was it?
I would say give or take like 1:45.
And so between the time that they came back to the house around 12:15 or so,
Yeah,
dude. How would you describe sort of the mood and the demeanor in the house at that point?
It was still all the same. Everyone was having fun, hanging out.
Music still playing, people drinking, having a good time?
Yes.
And over the course of this time, as far as the group that you talked about that was in the kitchen and dining room area, did you see any of those people go anywhere else?
I mean, to the bathroom, but I know at one point Mr. Albert, Brian's Jr.'s dad, took upstairs to let the dog out back, but he just opened the back door and watched them from the door and brought him right back upstairs. So
same story.
That was the only time he went upstairs, but.
And as far as the kitchen and dining room area, do you recall sort of how people were situated around that area during the time that the second group was there?
Yeah, we were all sitting in like a kitchen table. It's like a square table, so we're all just hanging out around there. Some at like the island in the kitchen, but mostly all just there together.
Do you recall specifically? I know we're talking over 2 years ago. Do you recall specifically where people were within that area around the table?
I don't know.
Do you recall where you were?
I was sitting like in the corner, so I could see like the island, the kitchen table, like the front door, and like the windows, I guess. Yeah.
Where you were seated around the table, could you see the front door?
Yes.
And so beyond the people that you'd already talked about being in that kitchen dining room area in that second group, did anybody else come into the house that night while you were there?
No.
And at the time on January 28, 2022, were you familiar with either a person named John O'Keefe or a person named Karen Read?
No.
And at any point in time, not knowing them, did you see anybody else come into the house while you were there between that 12 to 12:15 and 1:45?
No one else came in, no.
Now, do you recall who was sort of around you where you were at the table? Immediately around you.
I would say Jennifer McCabe, Sarah Levenson, Caitlin. I can remember like sitting at the table like with me. Yeah.
Now, at some point in the evening, let me ask you this: what if any sort of plans did you have as far as how you were getting home?
Yeah, I did text my brother to see if he could pick me up
on his way home with his friend, on their way home to come pick me up, which they did.
Which of your two brothers was it?
My brother Ryan.
So you texted Ryan to see if he could come pick you up?
Yep.
And did you have to give him like an address or anything like that, or how did you explain to him where you were?
See, you
I just said I was at Brian
everybody
Jr.'s house. If he could pick me up.
else's, but the ones that
Is that somewhere
count,
that your brother
like
had
you
to
don't
go
have
from private
Caitlin.
station?
Yes.
And about what time, if you know, did you send that text to your brother about getting picked up?
I'd probably say a little after, probably like 15 minutes after midnight. Yeah.
And as far as the other people in that second group that you were talking about,
Mhm.
did you reach out to Ryan to get picked up? Are those other people there?
Yes.
And you indicated that your brother then came to the house at some point?
Yes, he did.
And about how long after you texted him did he arrive?
I'm not quite sure.
And when he arrived, did he come into the house or did he reach out to you in any way to let him know?
He just texted. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Did he reach out to you at any point to let you know that he was there?
Yes, he did text me saying that he was outside.
And upon receiving that text, where did you go?
I went out through the front door.
Why is your bottom
Now,
lip
before you
quivering?
went out through the front door, what, if any, conversation, well, let me strike that as far as conversation, but who, if anyone, did you speak to about the fact that your brother was outside the house?
Yeah, I just mentioned saying my brother's outside. I do remember someone or a few,
I want to hear the answer first.
just a few people saying, "Oh, just have your brother come in." So I went outside, and it was my brother in the passenger seat, his friend Ricky, and then his ex-girlfriend Heather. I asked them if they wanted to come in. They said no.
I'm going to let that stand, but next question.
So you go outside to where your brother was, right?
Yes,
And you recall which of the two front doors you used to go outside?
I used the front door.
Front door is the one with the brick steps, is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
You come down the brick steps, go down the walkway. Do you recall how you came down to where your brother was?
I walked down the steps through the little path, and then down the driveway. And they were parked right in the
Funny
driveway.
is Jen
So they were parked right at the end
selected
of the driveway.
your
Yes.
selected your
And, what kind
screenshot.
of vehicle was this that you came on?
She's not a
It was
detective.
Ricky's pickup truck of Ford F-150.
And you mentioned that there were three people in the truck. Is that
First time
correct?
I've
Yes.
ever heard screenshots being.
Ricky was driving his truck.
Wow.
Ryan was in the passenger seat, and then Heather was in the back seat.
You mentioned that Heather is Ryan's ex-girlfriend. Is that correct?
Correct.
Were they dating at this time?
At that time, yes.
That wasn't
now
taken
with
from the
regard
cops.
to
That's
Ricky is
so
someone
weird.
who's a close friend of your brother. Is that correct?
Yes.
You know him pretty well.
Yep.
As you get to the truck, do you recall how it was that you were speaking to your brother Ryan? Was it through an open window? Did you open the door, or how were you communicating?
He rolled down his window.
And when you came out to the truck at the end of the driveway, what, if any, other vehicles did you see in the area of the house on Fairview?
Well, before when I went outside, I did notice another vehicle before my brother pulled up.
So you had gone outside before your brother had, or Ricky had fully sort of parked the truck.
No, he was like fully outside already, and then I went out. It was just Ricky's truck.
And so at some point later, there was another vehicle that came up.
Prior. Correct.
And can you describe that vehicle to the jury? Sort of what did it look like? What kind of vehicle was it?
Yeah, it was a black SUV.
And had you ever seen that vehicle before?
No.
And you go up to the truck and you're talking to your brother. Is that correct?
Yes.
No.
Now, with regard to about how long period of time were you talking with your brother next to the truck?
I would say maybe 3 minutes max, not even.
And did you invite your brother and his friends inside the house?
Yes.
How did they respond?
They said, no, we just want to go home. And then I was like, I'll find out another ride home.
And so that brings me to my next question. As far as arrangements for you coming home, was there any, prior to you coming out of the house, was there any talk or discussion about how you would get home if you didn't go home?
Yeah, Matt McCabe and Jennifer did offer to drive me home if I didn't want to go home with my brother. So I just stayed and then took their offer.
So you decided you wanted to stay and took them up on their offer.
Correct. Yes.
And in addition to yourself, who if anyone else went?
So where the black blob was, man.
It was me and Sarah Levenson.
If I could bring you back to that period of time when you're outside, the vehicle that you were talking about, where is that in relation to the pickup truck that Ricky saw?
Well, it was like the SUV wasn't there when my brother was there. It was like before. Like when I was inside, I noticed it. Yeah.
And so at the time that you were talking to your brother, the pickup truck, was the SUV still there?
I don't believe so, no.
And so where was that SUV parked in relation to where the truck was?
So when I noticed, looking out the window, I did notice the SUV in front of the mailbox, and then pulled up a little bit in front of the yard, and then stopped, and then pulled up again towards the flagpole.
So you saw it in sort of three different locations at the time that you were seeing it?
Correct, yes.
And again, where were you in relation to the vehicle at the time that you made these observations?
I was inside at the dining room table, looking out the window.
And at any point in time, did you see anybody come out of that?
I did not know.
And at any point in time, did you see any sort of, well, when you came out initially or when you were looking out and when you came out, do you recall anything about the weather and sort of what it was doing at that point?
It was, I would say like flakes of snow, a little dust on the ground.
And so from the dust on the ground, from either the SUV or the pickup truck that Ricky was driving, did you see any sort of like imprints in the snow from tires or anything like that?
I don't recall.
You don't recall if there was that much snow or what it was?
Correct.
And as far as anywhere in and around where you had seen the SUV at either of the three spots that you saw it, did you see any sort of like footprints in snow or in the ground or anything like that? And did you see inside of the vehicle, see anybody inside at any point in time?
No.
And you never saw anybody get out of that vehicle at any of the three different points where you saw it parked, correct?
I did not know.
When you saw the vehicle parked at those three sort of separate different locations, was the vehicle on? Was it running, if you could tell?
I'm not sure. No.
Can I may approach?
Yes.
Nagel, I'm going to draw your attention to what the agency marks as exhibit 71, 72, and 73.
Okay.
Right now, I'm just going to ask you to take a look at those and look up when you finish. And at some point, I may ask you to use this, which is the laser pointer. Press on that button and point it up at the screen. Okay. So first, we can just look at 71, 72, and 73.
Looking at the same pictures that
Generally,
you've
with
already
respect to those
that
photographs,
they've already
you recognize what's
shown
in
500
Yes.
million times.
That it's my friend Brian Albert Jr.'s house.
Is that roughly what the house looked like at the time of January 28th, 2020?
Correct. Yes.
I could ask you to flip just back to the first one that I showed you, exhibit 71. Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish that at the very time?
Okay.
And so, Ms. Nagel, directing your attention up to the screen above you, sorry, to your right. This is what you have before you as exhibit 71, is that correct?
Yes.
If you could, using the laser pointer that's on the desk in front of you, if you could direct your attention to the door that you were talking about, that she came out in order to come down and talk to your brother.
Yes. That one right there.
Now, with respect to the written truck, when you came out to speak with your brother Ryan, where was the truck parked?
The truck was parked right here.
And with respect to that vehicle, the black SUV, where that vehicle was initially when you saw it? Is that visible in this photograph?
Yes.
And if you could direct your attention to where that. Okay. If I could.
Where's Brian Albert's Jeep or Brian Higgins Jeep at then?
Again, what's up on the screen is that what you have before you as exhibit 72.
Yes.
Now, the second position that you indicated you observed that black SUV in with relation to the house, if you could, using the laser pointer, draw your attention where that would be in this photograph.
Objection, sidebar, Your Honor.
All right. George, feel free to stand up.
That's the same fucking spot, except for a little bit further up. It's not even where he got ran over. That's the same house that they've been fucking showing for 20 years, Kevin. This is the one without the big ass driveway. In the fucking blizzard. There's so much wasted time on this fucking goddamn case. Like, they could dwindle down the witnesses. They really could. Sometimes presenting too much fucks up your case, but they don't care. They're really trying to, like, make her guilty.
So again, Ms. Nagel, directing your attention up to what's up on the screen is exhibit 72. You indicated in your testimony that you saw the vehicle from inside the house at 3 different points, correct?
Yes.
You indicated the first point, the last photograph is the second point that you saw the vehicle in. Is that depicted in this photograph?
Yes.
You could use the laser pointer just direct your attention to that second point. Was it you saw?
It's right around the same spot, you dump. Now
Well,
you
I asked you to
switched
flip
it
the
up.
next exhibit of
It was
72.
over here,
I'm gonna find that out.
lady. You switched it
Ms.
up.
Nagel, with
It
regards
was
to
over
the
here.
third point, or the third different location that you observed that black SUV on that morning, is that visible in
See,
this photograph?
they like
Yes.
to play tricks with all these photos. These photos are so. Never mind. Let me shut up.
That's all with this, Ms. Cummings. You can
It was way over here, dude.
Thank you.
So, you speak with your brother outside,
Really
and
bunch
then
of
at some
photos.
point after a couple minutes come back inside. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the people that you would mention that were in the kitchen and dining room area, were they still in that area?
Yes.
And at some point over the course of the evening, things eventually start to wind down and people are leaving
God
the house.
ain't
Is that
gonna
right?
save you now,
What order
girlfriend.
it was that people left the house on that?
Holding that. damn
I'm not
cross.
quite too sure now.
God ain't gonna save you now.
And with respect to yourself, you indicated that you left with Miss Levenson and McKay, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall who, if anyone else, was present in the home when you left?
I'm not sure. No.
And so when you left, how was it that you came out of the residence at that point?
Out the front door.
Same front door that you had indicated earlier.
Yes.
So let's move on with which door, please. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You come out from that door. Where was it that you went?
Thank you.
Went into Matt and Jennifer's car.
Do you recall anything about the car, what type of car it was, or?
It was an SUV, but I don't know what kind it was.
And where was that vehicle parked when you went over to?
I was in the driveway.
And do you recall sort of how you came from the front door to the driveway?
Just walked on through the pathway in the front yard and then out the door.
So sort of along the brick path through the driveway to the car.
Yes.
Do you recall when you got in the car where it was you were seated or where anyone else was seated in the car?
Yeah, it was Matt driving, Jennifer in the front, and then me behind Matt, and then Sarah next to me in the back behind Jen.
Now, after you get in the car, about how long was it before the car backs out of the driveway?
I'm not quite too sure.
And what, if any, conversations do you recall as far as going on during that period of time prior to the car backing out of the building?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Now, when the vehicle leaves from the house, at some point it's going by the house, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall which side of McCabe's vehicle was facing towards the house? And by that I mean, was it the side you were sitting on or the side that Ms. Levenson?
The side that Sarah was sitting on.
Dude.
And that would have been the passenger side, is that correct?
Yes.
And at the time that the vehicle was driving by the house, what is it that you were doing at that time?
We were having a conversation. So Jen was kind of facing towards the back, towards me and Sarah. We were talking about making PB and jelly sandwiches because there was some peanut butter and jelly and bread in the car. So
because
talking
you
about
guys
that.
were talking about that, so nobody saw anything.
Is that right?
Yes.
And she's talking to you and Ms. Levenson, correct?
Yes.
And how is it that she's
That describes us why we couldn't see anything.
Yeah, I would say she was kind of turned back a little bit towards us in the back seat.
And what I'm asking is, she turned towards sort of the center of the vehicle, or she turned towards the window next to her?
Towards the center of the vehicle.
And you're speaking to her and to Ms. Levenson, correct?
Yes.
Which direction are you facing?
I'm facing towards Sarah and Jen.
And which direction is Sarah facing as you're having this conversation?
Towards me.
And as you drive by home, what, if anything, did you observe?
I did notice behind Sarah and Jen, I did notice something out of the ordinary, like a black blob in the grounds by the flagpole.
Of course you did.
And from where you were situated in the car, you know, so what was the
Look
lighting
at
like
your
over in that
face.
area?
You don't believe that because your
It was
your
pretty
eyes
dark out,
are
but the
moving
snow
all
was kind
over
of heavy
the-
at that point, so
Your eyes are going
couldn't really
up
see
and
too much,
down,
but
like you're really stressed about something because you're lying.
If you know about where in relation to the black hole
Liar.
was this black object that you saw?
I'd probably say close to the street, but in their lawn, right kind of in front of the flagpole next to it.
There goes her eyes.
Now, I'm sorry to do this again, but
Water City.
You're on the porch mission. I would just ask that exhibit number 72 be back up on the screen.
Okay. She was fine just before. Now it really got bad.
I'm sorry. I should actually ask for exhibit number 73.
Show where
Now,
it is,
Nagel, if I
man.
could ask,
Show
the area
where it
where you
is,
saw
right
this
where his body was
black
found.
object.
Show it.
You see that area in the photograph?
Yes.
If you could,
When there's a bush
laser
there,
point
lady.
your attention to where
You probably
that
seen the
specific
bush.
issue,
Not
where you observed this.
I'm thinking you seen a fucking blob of a person. You're such a liar. Such a liar. Who told you to say that?
Now, as the vehicle is going by the house, as you make that observation,
See, and
what, if
then
anything,
the
do you see
brother
next?
gives her daggers.
I did
That's
say
some
out loud.
bullshit.
I was like, I think I might have saw something. I'm not kind of sure what it was. But I was also intoxicated drinking. So didn't really
Yeah, so
know
you
what
probably
what it
really
was, what I
didn't
saw.
see it.
But Sarah was like, "What, Julie?" And I was like, "I don't know what it was." And then that was kind of really it.
Yeah, dude.
And that was sort of the end of the conversation in reference to that. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Let me have a moment, Your Honor.
No more questions. Come on, bring on the defense.
Ms. Nagel, if I could ask one more question. With regard to the object that you saw in that area, the flagpole, can you describe how big an object it was that you saw?
I'd probably say 5 or 6 feet.
Oh,
Like
God,
long.
here we go.
But
And at the time that you're driving by at that point, you could tell what it was.
not quite sure. No, it was just too kind of quick.
Flutter,
Too quick to tell.
flutter. And then her dry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, let out that lie. Let out that
Afternoon, Ms.
deep
Good afternoon.
because you're
On January 28th of
gonna
2022,
get it.
you got to 34 Fairview Road at about 6 or 7 p.m.
Correct.
and you didn't leave until 1:30 or 2 a.m., correct?
1:45 around there. Yeah.
Okay. So you were there approximately 8 hours?
I'm not really sure about the math, but I guess so.
A lot of hours.
Yep.
Other than the people who lived at the home and slept there, you were one of the ones to spend the most time there that night, correct?
I'm not sure.
You got there early.
Yeah, because see, the
got
cops
there
are
early,
coming
correct?
for you. They know you're full
Yes.
of
And you
shit.
left late, correct?
Yeah.
And you were inside almost the entire time, correct?
Yes.
So you came in contact with just about everybody who came into that house, correct?
Yes.
And you know that everyone who was in the house that night is a witness in this case, correct?
Yes.
The only time you went outside before you left was when your brother Ryan arrived, correct?
Yes.
Hey, life.
And even when you went outside, you stayed on the Albert property, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And you had some contact with your brother out there,
How
correct?
are you?
Yes,
And you know that he's a witness in this case as well, correct?
I do. Yes.
And despite having contact with all of these
Thank you
witnesses
for
in this
coming
case,
through. I appreciate
Trooper
it.
Proctor didn't talk to you on January 29th, did he?
No.
Or the rest of January or the whole month of February, correct?
Correct.
He didn't interview you about these statements that you're making today until October of 2022, correct?
If that's what it says on paper, yeah.
October 5 of 2022, does that sound right?
I don't know.
It was many months after January 29th, correct?
Yes.
Over 8 months after John O'Keefe was found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
If that was the time frame, yes.
And when he spoke to you on October 5, Trooper Proctor asked you for the
Liar.
first time to remember the details from 8 months before that, correct?
If that was the time frame, yes.
And you are good friends with Sarah Levenson, correct?
Yes.
Certainly over the last
Girl,
2+
please.
years, the two of you have discussed what happened on January 28th and 29th, correct?
Yeah.
And you know that Michael Proctor only interviewed you after the defense in this case filed a motion to get Sarah Levenson's name from the DA's office.
Objection, Your
correct?
Honor.
The objection sustained. Next question.
So you've known Brian Jr. since your sophomore or junior year, correct?
Yes.
And you actually graduated Canton High School in 2016, correct?
Correct.
But you've known him since 2014 or 15,
Yes.
9 or 10 years?
Yep.
He's a good friend.
Yes.
He's a close friend of yours, correct?
Yes.
And on January 28th of 2022, you were one of a select group of his friends who went to his house to celebrate his birthday the following night, right?
Yes.
And you don't go to
Why did that take you so long to answer, lady?
who you graduated high school with 10 years previously to celebrate their birthday if they're just an acquaintance, correct?
Objection.
I don't know.
I'll let the answer stand.
When you got there, other than Sarah Levenson and yourself, everyone at the house was a member of the Albert family, correct?
He still wants to
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Sure.
What
You and Sarah
acquaintance
Levenson are
is
not
and what a
actually
friend
Alberts,
is.
correct?
Correct. Yes.
But everybody else at the house was when you got there.
No.
You named Brian Albert Jr., correct?
Yes.
Julie Albert,
I did not know.
Nicole Albert,
I did. Yes.
Caitlin Albert,
Yes.
Brian Albert Sr. might have been there.
Yes.
And you knew the Alberts well enough to know the names that we just discussed, correct?
Yes.
And in addition to that, the McCabe's were related to the Alberts, correct?
Yes.
And you knew Jennifer and Matt McCabe before that night, right?
I'm sorry. Can you?
Yes. Before January 28th of 2022, you knew Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
Yes.
You had been to their home before,
Who's home?
the McCabe's home.
Oh my
I
god.
don't recall.
You've driven their daughters around, correct?
I have. Yes.
And you had
You've
actually
been
pet
there.
sat for the McCabe's golden
Oh,
doodle,
suck.
correct?
Correct. Yes.
Their home.
Yes.
And so the answer to my previous question is certainly you've been to their home.
Yes.
Yes.
And their golden doodle was named Bailey, correct?
Yes.
Oh.
In fact, you knew Jennifer McCabe well enough that you called her by a nickname, correct?
Yes.
What was the nickname that you referred to Jennifer McCabe by?
JJ.
JJ.
And you knew that JJ was Nicole Albert's sister, correct?
Yes.
Now, on the night of January 28th into the 29th, you saw Brian Albert Sr. After he came back to 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
You were on the first floor of that residence the whole night, were you not?
Yes.
And you have a specific memory of Brian Albert Sr. walking Chloe through the first floor of that house, correct?
Yes.
When Brian Albert Sr. was walking Chloe through the first floor of that house, he maintained control of Chloe's collar, did he not?
He did. Yes.
You like dogs, right?
I do.
But you didn't pat Chloe, correct?
I have. Yes.
That night.
No.
You've never pet sat for Chloe, correct?
No.
But you did hang out regularly at the Albert home for years because of your friendship with Brian Jr., correct?
Yes.
Which meant that you have had contact with Chloe over the years.
correct?
Yes.
You would agree with me that Chloe's a very different dog from Bailey in McCabe's Golden Retriever, correct?
Objection.
Sustain.
Bailey is a friendly dog, is he not?
Objection.
Sustain.
Chloe is not friendly, correct?
Objection.
I'll let you have that. Can you answer that?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, Chloe is not a friendly dog.
I mean, I would say so, yeah.
It was clear to you that she is not good with people, correct?
I'm not aware.
On January 28th and 29th, while you were in the kitchen dining room area, you'll agree with me that there was music playing for most of the night, correct?
For a decent amount, yes.
And that area of the house has surround sound speakers?
Yes.
Everybody was in a good mood?
Correct, yes.
Talking?
Yes.
Drinking?
Yep.
Singing?
I don't remember.
Dancing?
Yeah.
And all the action was in the kitchen dining room area, correct?
Yes.
And that was where your attention was mainly focused, was it not?
It was, yes.
Because that's where everybody was.
Yes.
You were not monitoring the basement door, were you?
No.
And you never went down to the basement, correct?
No, I did not.
Prior to January 28th of 2022, you knew who Colin Albert was, correct?
Yes.
You knew that he was your friend Brian Jr.'s first cousin, right?
Correct.
When you were at 34 Fairview, you did see Colin there, correct?
I did, yes.
You believe that he got there shortly after Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, and Julie Albert left the residence, correct?
At some point, yeah.
And you say at some point, that's because you're not sure of the exact time when he got there, correct?
Correct.
You're also not sure of the exact time when he left, correct?
I would say 11:30, 11:45, around there.
He wasn't somebody who was important to you that night, was he?
Not really, no.
You weren't paying attention to monitor when he came or when he left, were you?
No. I said no.
You never physically watched him walk out the door, correct?
I don't remember.
You can't even say which door he walked out, correct?
I don't know.
You never saw him get picked up.
I did not know.
You never saw any car arrive for him.
I don't know.
And you never saw how he got home.
No.
Then why are you testing?
Now, on January 29th of 2022, after midnight, your brother
I don't
Brian
know.
Nagel
I don't
and you
know.
lived in
I
the same
don't
home,
know. I
correct?
don't know.
At the time, yes.
At about 12:15 to 12:20, you texted your brother Ryan for a ride home, correct?
If that's what the timestamp says, yes.
Do you have a screenshot of that text message?
Somewhere, yes.
Did you provide that to any investigator or assistant district attorney?
I don't remember.
Do you recall whether any assistant district attorney or investigator asked you for a copy of that text message?
I don't know.
Is that text message still on your phone?
I don't know.
Did you delete that text message?
I don't
Objection,
know.
Your Honor.
So let's move this along, Mr. Higgins.
When you texted Ryan that night, you were contacting him because you thought it was an appropriate time for you to leave, correct?
Yeah.
How long did it take your brother Ryan to get to the Albert home after that text message?
I don't know.
Was it an
Oh
hour?
my God,
I
girl.
don't think so, no.
Was it a half hour?
I do not know.
So you have no idea how long it took him to get there and how long you stayed after you texted him, correct?
I don't know, no.
By the time you're texting Ryan, Ms. Nagel, how much do you think you would have to drink since 6 or 7 p.m.?
A decent amount.
Would you say that another word for it would be a lot?
No.
No.
Michelob Ultras.
And how many did you have?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Did you bring your own Michelob Ultras to the party?
I don't know.
You don't remember whether you brought any beer to the party?
I don't know.
Where was the beer?
I either brought it or I don't know. I don't remember. It was 2.5 years ago.
Where was it in the home?
In the fridge.
You have no memory of like running out of beer that night, correct?
I don't remember, no.
There appeared to be plenty of beer to go around, correct?
For myself, yeah.
Between the time that you texted your brother Ryan and the time he arrived, it's fair to say that you changed your mind about going home with him, correct?
Yes.
You changed your mind while you were still inside the Albert home, correct?
I did not say that, no.
Well, I'm asking you now.
No.
You changed your mind only after you left the residence and went out to talk to him?
Yes.
You claimed on direct examination that he was the one that said, why don't you stay longer?
No, that's not what I said.
Only when the defense is talking do they not remember shit.
Myself.
So you told him that you wanted to stay longer, correct?
Yeah. I did.
And when you went outside, you learned that he had come and his friend, is it Ricky D'Antuono? How do you pronounce the name?
It's Ricky D'Antano.
Ryan had come in Ricky D'Antano's gray Ford F-150 truck, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I butchered that. When you went outside, you saw that your brother Ryan was in Ricky D'Antano's gray Ford F-150 truck, correct?
Correct, yes.
He was sitting in the front passenger seat of the truck, correct?
Ryan, yes.
The truck was parallel to the Albert's residence, correct?
Yes.
It was not parked in the driveway.
No.
The truck was facing toward Chapman Street, going up the hill, correct?
Yes.
So Ryan's
I don't
seat
even know why
would
they
have been the
called
closest to the property.
stupid
right?
ass
Passenger seat
witnesses.
I'm sorry, closest to the what?
To the Albert home.
Yes, correct.
You walked down the driveway to get to the truck, correct?
Yes.
Dave's SUV was in the driveway at that point, was it not?
Yes.
And at that point, I want to go back, if I can, to when you were inside the house, because you had testified that when you were inside, you looked out the window and you saw a different vehicle, correct?
I did, yes.
A black SUV.
Yes.
And you testified that you saw that from within the house, you saw that black SUV move 2 times, correct?
More than 2.
So it was at first parked near the mailbox,
Yes.
and then you saw it move forward, right?
Yes.
And then you saw it move forward again to near the flagpole, correct?
Yes.
And was there a third time that you saw it move?
I saw it pull up, stopped, pulled up again, stopped, pulled up again by the flagpole, stopped. That's all I saw.
All right, and that was all while you were inside the house, correct?
Correct, yes.
And, when it was pulling up like that, Ms. Nagel, it wasn't going 80 miles an hour, correct?
It was not, no.
It wasn't going 50 miles an hour, correct?
I mean, I didn't have a
It
radar gun on
definitely
me, but
wasn't
no.
going 22
It was
miles
going at a
backwards.
safe speed, correct?
Yeah,
Long distance, correct? Each time?
no.
It's a matter of several feet, correct? Adjusting its position?
Just pulled up and stopped a few times.
Right. And as you saw it pull up and stop a few times from within the home, its direction was always forward, correct?
From what I saw, yes.
You never saw that car backward, correct?
No.
You certainly never saw it speed at a crazy pace backwards, correct?
Objection.
Objection sustained.
Why not let it in? Because they say it's 22 miles an hour. That's
Now, I'd asked
crazy.
you about the text messages that you had with your friend Ryan, and you could not recall
Your friend,
whether
your
any
brother.
investigator or assistant district attorney asked you for screenshots of that, correct?
My friend or my brother?
Did I say friend?
You did, yes.
Thank you for correcting me. I did
You
mean
meant your
brother.
brother.
Thank you. And I appreciate the fact that you're paying attention. At least one of us is.
Yeah.
So I asked you about the screenshots of the text messages that you had with your brother Ryan, and whether any investigator or assistant
You
district
wanted
attorney
to see
had asked
if
you
she's
for it,
paying
correct?
close
I don't
attention
remember.
to
Didn't remember, right.
his
Somebody did ask
his
you for a
questions and
screenshot, correct?
shit.
Yes.
Who was that?
JJ McCabe.
And by JJ, you mean Jennifer McCabe?
Correct, yes.
Why? See,
When JJ
this is what
asked you, do you remember when it was
boggles me.
that JJ
Okay,
Jennifer McCabe asked.
Jennifer McCabe should not be asking you for screenshots. Okay, she shouldn't be, because when she gets on the stand, I'm a witness. I'm not on trial. But it's okay for Karen Read to be on trial, and her to menace in all these text messages and all that great stuff. Delete calls and texts off her phone. Delete Google searches at 2:27 that says how long to die in the cold. And all that stuff, and just write it away. Hurry, get somebody to write it away, right? Never in a case before have I ever seen screenshots come in as evidence without it being done by the investigators or the DA's office. They always extract your motherfucking phones. Why? Because you can lie.
Asked you for a copy of those screenshots?
I do not remember.
Like Jen McCabe is all intertwined in this. Like, why is she so invested and so intertwined in this case? And I know why. Because her brother is involved and her nephew's involved. So of course she took it upon herself. Let me go to one of the sergeant's house and have a conversation. Let me go to the lead detective's house, and I'm going to make up the story that we were both there distraught because we were both being harassed. Like, give me a fucking break, lady. Everybody on the internet gets harassed. Shit.
No.
Did you provide them to Jennifer McCabe?
I did, yes.
Did Jennifer McCabe, when she asked you to provide her with those screenshots, claim that she was an investigator in this case?
Absolutely dumb.
You can answer that.
Do you mind repeating that, please?
Sure. When Jennifer McCabe, or as you call her, JJ, asked you for screenshots of the text messages that you had with your brother Ryan, did Jennifer McCabe tell you that she was investigating this case?
No.
And you have no memory of providing those screenshots to any investigator other than Jennifer
That
McCabe,
is just
correct?
strange to
remember, no.
me.
Okay. Now, when you're ultimately leaving the residence, it's about, I think you said 1:45 a.m. is your best guess?
Yes.
You walked out which door?
The front door.
And that would be the one to the left,
Patrick
right?
told
The
me to
rear
get
front
him.
door.
No.
Yes,
no,
correct.
No.
That door faces right to the front lawn,
You're a
correct?
civilian.
Yes,
You left with Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Sarah Levenson, correct?
correct.
And you all went out the same door, correct?
I know what door I went out. I don't know about, it could have been. I don't know if they went through the side, but yeah.
Fair to say that walking out the front door of that house, you saw no body on that front lawn in front of you, correct?
When I walked out? No.
None of the other three people yelled out that they saw a body, correct?
Correct.
You got into Jennifer McCabe's vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And you were seated just behind the driver, correct?
Yes.
And the driver was Matthew McCabe, correct?
Correct.
Jennifer McCabe was in the front passenger seat,
Yes.
and Sarah Levenson was sitting next to you behind the front passenger, correct?
Yes.
Matthew McCabe backed the car out of the driveway and then headed up toward Chapman Street, correct?
Yes.
That meant that the passenger side of the vehicle was closest to the Albert home, correct?
Yes.
So that meant that Sarah Levenson and Jennifer McCabe were in the seats that were closest to the Albert home, correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure. As Matthew McCabe was driving that vehicle alongside the Albert property line, Jennifer McCabe in the front passenger seat and Sarah Levenson in the rear passenger seat were the closest two people to the Albert home, correct?
Yes.
And as the car passed in front of the Albert home, you saw no tire tracks in the snow, correct?
I don't remember.
You claim now to have seen a black object in the snow, correct?
Yes.
Object is the term that you used when you were finally interviewed about this matter, correct?
A black object, yes.
Right. You never before ever told any investigator that what you actually saw was a black blob, correct?
I don't remember.
And you also never, ever told any investigator that this black object that you described was actually 5 feet or 6 feet long, correct?
Correct, yes.
The very first time you're
You
now
stated that was here today. Yep.
This black object, as you describe it, was
Exactly.
actually 5 or 6 feet long, was just today, after 12 noon on May 14th of 2024, correct?
Lally asked me how big it was, so I just told him right now, yeah.
Yeah, Lally, when you say Lally, you mean Mr. Lally?
Yes, Mr. Lally, correct, yes.
Mr. Lally just asked you during this trial, again,
Yeah.
right before this jury. That's the first time you've ever been asked or ever given an answer as to how big that object was, correct?
That is
Not
weird.
necessarily, no.
Did you review any report that was taken when the investigators spoke to you regarding this case before taking the stand today?
No.
You've never testified in a grand jury regarding this case, correct?
Correct.
You've never testified in any hearing regarding this case, correct?
In this hearing, in this case,
Besides today.
no.
Well,
And you would agree with me that it is nowhere on record that this black object that you talk about was ever 5 or 6 feet long prior to telling the jury that today.
Objection.
You have to ask that differently, Mr. Kennedy.
Today, this afternoon, is the first time that you've provided testimony or information to any official regarding this
Yep.
case that the object was 5 or 6 feet long.
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Who did you tell prior to today?
About what?
Okay, I thought we were talking about the fact that you've now testified that this black object was 5
Girl.
or 6 feet long. You recall that?
see,
Today, yes.
And my question to you was, you've never mentioned that this black object was 5 or 6 feet long until the last hour or so when Mr. Lally questioned you about it, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you were passing the property, you did not think it was a body.
At the time, no.
You claim that you told everyone in the car that you saw something, correct?
Correct.
And your friend Sarah said what? Or something to that effect, correct?
Correct.
And there was no further conversation after that, correct?
Not that I can remember. No.
And you didn't think that it was a person who was in trouble, correct?
Objection.
Did you think that? At what time, Mr.?
When you were leaving the property, after leaving the house at 1:45 a.m. and getting into the McCabe vehicle and passing that.
Exactly.
off the
You
Albert
didn't
line,
think it was
you
a
did not
person.
think that you saw a person who was in trouble, correct?
No.
Or a person that may have needed help, correct?
I don't know, no.
And you were right there, correct? Passing the property?
I was passing the property,
Not
yes.
as close to the property as your friend Sarah Levenson, but you were in the back seat on the driver's side, correct?
Correct.
And you were in a car such that if you thought that you saw something that could have been a person, all you had to do was tell the driver, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you tell the driver that you saw somebody who was in trouble?
Well, I said it out loud in the car.
So is it your testimony now that you said out loud in the car, there's a person who's in trouble?
That's not what I said, no.
You didn't mention a person at all in the car, correct?
No.
Did not tell Matthew McCabe, hey, stop the car, correct?
I did not know.
If you had seen a person in the snow lying there, you would have done something about it, correct?
Objection.
You didn't ask Matthew McCabe to stop.
No.
You didn't ask him to back up.
Nope.
You didn't ask him to check on whatever it was.
Objection, Your
No.
You had your phone with you, correct?
Yeah.
Your phone was working, correct?
I don't remember.
You used that phone to text your brother.
Hour and a half before.
Are you testifying today that your phone was completely out of charge?
I don't remember. No.
Text
Now we
your
go
good
back
friend
to the I
Brian
don't
Albert
know.
Jr. to tell him that you saw somebody lying on his
I don't
front lawn?
know.
Did I text him
Yes.
that night?
As you are supposedly seeing this
Oh my
black object.
Lord, girlfriend.
The immediate aftermath of that, did you text Brian Albert Jr. to tell him about that black object?
So in that form, it's sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Nagel.
You had your friend Sarah Levenson with you, correct?
I did in the car. Yes.
You knew she was a nurse, correct?
Yeah.
You didn't tell your friend Sarah that you just saw somebody lying in the snow during a blizzard who might need some help, correct?
I
Exactly.
did not know.
That Brian Jr.'s father was a police officer, correct?
Objection, Your
So let's move this. Are you just about done with this line of questioning? I'll give you a little bit more.
There's a couple more questions.
Okay, go ahead.
You knew that he was a police officer, correct?
Yes.
And obviously a first responder as a police officer, right?
Yeah.
And you knew that that was Jennifer McCabe's brother-in-law, correct?
Yes.
And Jennifer McCabe was in the car with you, correct?
Yes.
You didn't tell Jennifer McCabe or JJ to call her brother-in-law, correct?
No.
The fact of the matter is, you did nothing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because you did not see a body on that lawn, correct?
Objection.
Is that true? Can you answer that?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
You didn't see a body on that lawn.
I mean, I don't know what I saw, but I saw an object.
You were drinking for hours.
Is that a question?
Yes, you were drinking for hours. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you were intoxicated as you were leaving that home.
Objection.
Were you?
Yes.
You were drunk, right?
Some would say. Yeah.
Stop looking at Lally to save you.
Yeah.
You believe that except for Matt McCabe, who was driving, everybody in the car was drunk, right?
Objection.
I don't know.
I'm going to let that answer stand.
You have previously testified. I'm sorry, strike that. You have previously given a statement indicating that you believe that everybody in that car except for Matthew McCabe was drunk. Do you deny that?
I don't remember at this moment.
You don't remember shit, bitch.
All right. You
I mean, bitch by term.
investigators that when Brian Albert Jr. called you the next morning and you
We're all
found out
bitches, but you're a
about the
bitch.
tragedy the previous night, you quote put two and two together, correct?
I did. Yes.
And when you put two and two together, you did not call the county police, correct?
I did not know.
Not call the state police, correct?
Nope.
Not call the district attorney's office.
No.
You sound
agree
really
with me that you
freaking
just
stupid
sat
right
in this
now,
violation,
lady.
Correct?
I would.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, that's sustained in that form.
And you were not interviewed by any investigator in January, February, March, or any time over the spring or summer of 2022, correct?
I don't remember the time frame, but not right after. No.
And when an investigator finally spoke to you, it was Michael Proctor, correct?
Correct.
He was the one who took your statement on October 12th of 2022, correct?
If that was the date and time, yes.
And that was over 8 months after you were driving past the Albert home at around 2 a.m. while you were drunk and supposedly seeing some black object, correct?
Before 2 a.m. Yes.
No,
And
don't
you know,
say unfortunately.
That as of October of 2022, the defense had, in this case, had publicly announced that
Objection, Your
no one
Honor.
had saw
All
a
right.
body on that front.
So that question's improper. I'm going to strike that question.
No further questions. Thank you.
All right.
So we're going to break. I have to bring you back tomorrow. Okay, so jurors, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it. Let us know from stand. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Alrighty, let me freaking bring this up for tomorrow. Pause I really don't want to have to deal with her again, but we're gonna have to. Pause this. Pause this. Pause. Pause. Okay. Alrighty. Let me remove this. Bye, bitch. Whoops, no, not me. Go on. Anyways, all right. Thank you, everybody that came by. Hit the like button, share, comment, all that great stuff. I really appreciate it. I will be monetized by the end of this year. I will. Dang it. Anyways, I will be back for day 12 tomorrow of this BS of a trial. And to think she's got to go through this again. To think I'm going to go through this again. but I love this stuff. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for coming by. And as always, when I end this, let the ones that you know that you love and care about know that you love and care about them, because tomorrow's never promised. And I hope everybody stays blessed. Bye.
Turn me up, AV.
Put your eyes on me, yeah, like the spotlight. Recognize me showing love, then got my grind right. Ain't never since day one the love been on side. And since you got my back, I got your back for life. Yeah, pretty honesty. Know just what it is, I got it on me. And you hold me down, you like my homie. Just know I got you down, just what it gon' be. Definition of bestie, definition of friendship, definition of rider, definition relentless. She's a strong woman, she's a sweet lady, she's a great mother. Let your pain get achy. Yeah, I made that girl on YouTube. She never dims my light or put me in her dark mood. And I thank you, you appreciate it. You're my favorite girl on YouTube, and I can't fake it. You still got faith in me, make me feel like big. DJ Khaled voice, pretty hot. Who still got faith in me, make me feel like big. DJ Khaled voice, pretty hot. Yeah. Met a little shawty on this show called BDP, you know what I'm talking about? Shit. We been cool ever since, my nigga, you know what I'm talking about? Put your eyes on me, yeah, like the spotlight. Recognize me showing love, then got my grind right. Ain't never since day one the love been on side. And since you got my back, I got your back for life. Yeah, pretty honesty. Know just what it is, I got it on me. And you hold me down, you like my homie. Just know I got you down, just